And we're now officially live for another Lore Ramblings. Hello there, everyone, and welcome to. I guess this is the closest we're going to get to a Halloween special. The name's Adam.
I'm Sid, and today we'll be reviewing the Fishman himself, Tzeentch.
Oh, yeah, Sin, that guy. The guy, his name is Sin.
It's Tzeentch,
Yeah, that
Tome
guy.
of Fate for Black Crusade, which I believe was the first book they put out after the core rulebook.
I think it was. I don't really know the order, but I think this is one of the first ones.
So
And
how fitting we do it as the last.
it's also fitting that I had to actually redo live chat because for some reason I had both a live chat in one window and then a second live chat. Very good quality, excellent programming. God, the machine spirits are on rogue today. All right, let's crack it open. And I like the cover. It's a great blue horror on here.
Oh no, that's not a blue horror, that's a flamer.
I like it.
You can tell because it's shooting flame.
I don't know. Everything kind of shoots magical fire with the Tzeentch.
Correct. But actually, funny enough, this book came out in 2012.
Oh, it did.
It's a
Nice.
few years away before they released the blue horrors as an official model. Previously, they only had like the pink horror. They then had the blue horror, which worked as if you kill pink horror, comes two blue horrors. And so many people abuse that rule to create lots of infantry.
Ah, that sounds fun. I do really like the symbol of Tzeentch they got here. That's all bio-organic. Just love the random bits of armor they attach on it.
Yeah. Uh,
So let's see what we got to work with here. The basics about Tzeentch himself, the Servants of Fate, which include the ability to play a Thousand Sun Sorcerer, which is always fun.
mhm.
Oh, they also have the Alpha Legion, which makes sense. A
Because I
Casal
think,
Magister Immaterial,
yeah, I think then that's all of them.
and
I
then
think
there's
the
the Idolatrex.
yeah the Quasal Magister is sort of like a sorcerer merchant, and then the Idolatrix is a tech priest.
Yep, it's a Heretic. It also gives you some minions, psychic powers. Basically, it expands on the powers. This is what Tome of Fate did. Every tome actually expanded what Black Crusade allowed you to do. And it's very fitting that magic comes here, as well as rituals. There's
And then
also a
there's
bunch of
more.
planets,
Yep.
figures, entities, and then
And about
finally
the
the
Necrons.
adventure.
They include the Necrons here, which I always think is a bit of an interesting team up since the Necrons kind of have control over the physics of reality.
Oh yeah, they no sell the warp too. They kind of have the ability to nullify it, like completely nullify it.
Yeah, though that's later lore. I'll No, they had the pylons on Cadia, but we didn't know that that was Blackstone until later.
Which I don't mind the concept because the concept of the Necrons themselves was legitimately. I mean, if you kill all life, then there's nothing for chaos to feed off of.
Well, it wasn't kill off chaos. Their entire thing,
It's just kill life.
some of them. Remember, they were essentially mind-controlled soldiers for these eldritch entities to wage war on other eldritch entities. But we'll get to that when we get to the Necrons.
Yep. I
Right now
just
we'll be
know that
talking about.
just heads up, we're probably not going to cover the adventure. We never do in these. Mainly just because it adds to the time, and we're going to go pretty far and deep into this.
Yeah,
What is
the,
fate?
I don't know. What is fate?
Well, I mean, for many heretics, fate is what they have fought against their entire lives. It was cruel fate that led Xenos raiders to burn their family to broken cinders, capricious fate that caused their lesser sibling to gain the family title instead of themselves, uncaring fate that led the Inquisition to mistakenly torture them as a traitor and thus make them one, Fate itself has made them into heretics, and Fate is thus hated as much as they hate the Imperium themselves.
And they get the idea of, why don't we control fate?
Yeah, because Fate technically is never random or meaningless. It's not blind or happenstance. There's apparently a grand scheme to all things and a grand schemer. I wonder who that is. No, seriously, who is he? I don't know. I'm only reading this book called Tome of Fate. Maybe it'll help me. Oh, it's
The problem
Tzeentch.
is,
Sorry,
yeah,
I'm clinically. You see, I unironically spent like $5,000 on the new edition of D&D. I'm sorry, my brain don't work too good.
if you spent $5,000 on the new edition of D&D, why are you enjoying this game?
I don't know. I think I'm single-handedly responsible for all 4,000 copies of its sales the first week. But by the way, just as a side tangent, D&D 2024, that's the actual name it went under because D and Done, as it was originally called by me, got canned because of the OGL license kerfuffle. Yeah, Wizards had to rename 5.5, aka 6. They call it 6e, but it's more like 5.5. It's
Just
really weird. But
just do it. Just call it sixth. Do what Games Workshop did when they changed from sixth to seventh. No fucking change at all.
but you don't understand. The architect of Fate told them that they had to make it cutesy. That's why Xbox does it. They want to pretend that they're special, so they made D&D 1 as in the only one you'll get. And then when that
Well,
brand failed, they called it 2024.
let me ask with the Xbox thing. What were they going to call it next? The Xbox 720?
I don't know. All I do know is that allegedly in its first week it only made what was it, 4,000 copies, which is 5 times less than the 5th edition did. Now
Ooh.
allegedly since it's been a month, it apparently has accelerated rapidly to do like 100,000. I don't I don't know if that's true. I wouldn't be surprised if they're lying and just using shop numbers because technically you count the book sales if they get sent to the shops or sent to online distribution, you know? We'll
Yeah,
see. I'll just say that even if it sells well, it might just turn out like Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition, where yeah, it smashed sales, like it's really good, but they were expecting more because they were starting at a much larger base. And
so
they
they're going to go
genuinely
back and
were. If you're wondering, just last bit on D&D. 5th edition is technically the largest selling D&D if you just count the core rule book. It only relatively recently beat it only relatively recently beat first edition by a couple tens of thousands of copies. Hey there, Ossel. It's GW that decides the fate of Warhammer's universe. How else do you explain? How else do you explain the end times? Hey, yeah, you just whoop Chaos's ass in the Brass Keep. Oh no! They teleported through. They teleported through that. Oh, the orcs fucking wrecked them here. No. That doesn't matter. They were able to get around that. Oh, fucking the orcs beat them again. It doesn't matter. We're going to continue insisting that Storm of Chaos is going to actually happen, even though the whole point of it was your battles was supposed to determine the plot. Fuck you, players. What a.
I mean, it did end with Grimgor punching Arcane on the balls, I think.
Uh, that's because in the actual statistics, Grimgor fucking killed him in almost every case, except for what was it, the false Sigmar guy. He was able to kill
Vulcan?
his mount. Yeah, he was able to kill his mount, and then Grimgor punched him.
Hmm.
Like that was just due to the statistics. The Chaos Army got fucking bodied, and they just refused to actually let that happen. Oh god, that's gross.
Yeah, it's kind of anticlimactic.
See, that's not fate. That's literally Tzeentch going no, no, and then rewinding time and then just ignoring reality. It's like Tzeentch did a table flip. That's what happened.
But no, I don't think you realize the end times is Tzeentch's master plan because look from the end times, he got a whole bunch of new models. He got Zangors. He got nerds that turn into jocks. Which I'm not kidding. The Arcanite's main foot soldier is a bunch of nerds that have a spell that can turn them into muscle-bound freaks
That's amusing.
or muscle-bound warriors, to be specific. But it fits.
So, what's in this book? The Tome of Fate's the first of the 4 books, so yeah, it's the oldest of the 4
Yeah.
that was released. You learn more about Tzeentch, the powerful god of fate and change. He's also the god of sorcery and the patron of psychers, even if they don't worship him directly. You'll learn of his servants, both demonic and mortal, and his how his influence is felt. It also gives you some new weapons and psychic powers. It gives you a bunch of them. And last but not least, there's an adventure for it. This is just kind of the intro. Let's actually get into Tzeentch himself. Here's some nice art. Well,
Yep.
it's okay. I feel it's a little too CGI sloppish.
Yeah.
It's too flat. Like the colors are a bit flat.
Yeah, they're mixing that red, yellow, blue, and
It
kind
don't
of
look good.
purple. But onto
Like there's creativity. I like the teratological nonsense that is the sorcerer.
yep, I think that is a Quasal sorcerer.
I like it. It's just it felt like they went a little too hard on the brush.
Yeah.
In your
So
paints, god damn it.
So, if chaos is change itself, then Tzeentch, more than any dark power, embodies chaos in its purest, most primal form. Therefore, no other god of chaos warrants more of our fearful respect, our tireless resistance, and our unflagging loyalty to the Emperor. Inquisitor Gallius Dirk at the Jelko Conclave. Records declared Heretica Extremis.
Well, yeah, he tried to say you gotta respect this entity. I mean, if you really think about it, Tzeentch himself kind of is one of the more powerful of the gods. You want to know why? RNG is his servant.
Well, remember, he's got one guy that he chucked into the Well of Eternity to understand past and future.
Well, he
Um,
also straight up is a part of the force dice that like your dice rolls are partially affected by him.
you also have uh, the fact that he once knew all sorcery until he lost it and sent two blue horrors to find all of the sorcery in the world or the universe.
But yeah, he's the most enigmatic. The way he kind of works is he embodies the mortal's desire for evolution, improvement, innovation, and progress, as well as dreams of wealth, prosperity, and a better tomorrow. While many perceive these motivations as healthy, wholesome, and perhaps even necessary to immortal existence, Tzeentch, the great conspirator, works to corrupt the aspirations and ambitions of humankind and Xenos alike. The other dark powers tend to act upon mortal society more directly. Korn's pretty blatant, Nurgle's pretty blatant, and Slaanesh. A lot of it's physical. Tzeentch, however,
Slanesh
is a big fucking nerd.
favors politicians, scholars, military officers, mortal leaders, getting them into a promising career, and then secretly being influenced into following the great conspirator.
Now, in fairness, Slaanesh kind of plays a little bit that way too, because perfection is an aspect, and you might want to become I don't know, the best chess player ever, like the perfect chess player, and Slaanesh can help you there. But Tzeentch is more along the lines of why do that when you can actually direct the chances of a guy doing a move that allows you to counter the move since you saw it in the future, possibly, maybe.
Oh, so he's the guy that had the butt plug device.
Yeah, Slaanesh operates that way. Tzeentch kind of operates in the sense that you just bribe the judge.
Yeah, yeah. Except you bribe the judge to make sure your guy loses so that he kills the other guy and then wins by default.
Yep. Meanwhile, Corn's just like you just beat the shit out of your opponent with his own, and then use his own teeth as pieces.
As Herodotus Black of Talum Nova says, he cannot be known, he cannot be described, he cannot be understood, for he is change, constantly changing, never ending. Also later declared Heretica Extremis.
I mean, yeah. That's the thing about Tzeentch. He doesn't have a solid form. Most of the others, at least, I mean, none of them do, but most of the others have kind of a consistency. Tzeentch, no, no. There's avians, tentacles, and eyes, and that's kind of about it. That's about the only thing you're gonna get out of him.
Oh, hey, Jimmy.
Yep. Hey there, Jimmy. We're just talking about the big bird Cthulhu monster that makes you want to, I don't know, uh, commit tax fraud because it would allow the government to actually crumble because it turns out that them trying to get after you for not paying your taxes actually outs an even bigger corruption scandal in the IRS, which then leads to massive.
Actually, Some have shown him as a lanky sorcerer, male or female, in robes that constantly change color, head hanging low beneath his shoulders, arms are long and spindly, skin covered in faces and mouths that whisper secret, dark, and terrible, or comment and subvert the words uttered by the entity's primary or natural mouth.
That's an interesting take. Most people tend to not go with that, with the Shrouded Sorcerer look.
Actually, no, the one I've heard, and I think actually has been in a book, is the multiple mouths speaking a variety of things.
I've seen that, but that's about it. Like, the depictions are always different, and they usually lean more into the avian or into, like, the tentacle aspect.
Yeah, birds, fish, primary descriptions. I mean, if you look at his forces, they kind of have an avian face to them, especially the Lords of Change, but you have an aquatic sense with the Screamers and the Discs of Tzeentch.
Others actually suggest he has no fixed form at all, and it's just a mass of constantly shifting flesh. That's the version I'm most familiar with.
Kind of like a Yog Sothoth in a way.
Well, no, no, no. Yeah, here's the thing: the Great Old Ones actually have a more stable form than Tzeentch. I think the closest to him is actually Azathoth, the blind idiot god, who does constantly change shape and form as he babbles restlessly in sleep.
I would go Azathoth mixed with Nyarlathotep.
Nyarlathotep is also a pretty good take on the character. Oh, there was that time that he appeared to Magnus as a cloud.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean his form is mutable because
I,
psychic bullshit go.
and he can corrupt even the Astartes. I mean, you have obviously the Thousand Sons, but you've got the Scourged and the Oracles of Change, and plenty of others that have fallen either due to his whispers or a desire for power.
But yeah, as usual, the most common iteration of his demons will look avian, then reptilian, and well, not reptilian, usually fish-like afterwards.
Fish-like, and then also just amorphous flesh.
More mouths and more eyes, the better.
And if you look at the old horrors, giant hands. Like somehow they thought that was the aesthetic they wanted to go with. Pink flesh, giant hands.
I mean, that is disturbing in its own way. Like imagine Thing from the Addams Family, but like even bigger.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a standard. His followers as well, most conspicuously the Traitor Legions. We kind of covered them.
Yep. People following him often pursue for technology, to understand things, or simply evolution, progress, advancement. The thing is though is that you would start as a steady thing of like, this is the way I want to go. I know the way to achieve the objective, but eventually you will get things to become more complex, more convoluted. So
Well,
many different plots,
eventually you're
so many
just gonna
different
go
groups.
full Mad Hatter and just scream change places, and you just have to randomly change places.
Because then you will know that that is the truth. There is nothing fixed. Everything is mutable. The flesh, the mind, the reality itself, fate, all of it can be changed. All of it is stable. All of it is everything. All of it is nothing.
But yeah, as for the philosophy of there is one, and it's mostly just the hoarding of knowledge. That's kind of like the only relatively consistent thing is just the desire to know.
Because as a schemer, you have to know.
Evolution and progress, yes, although it eventually just kind of goes completely insane.
Which is why his antithesis is Nurgle. Because Nurgle, you could argue, is change as well, but it's cyclical.
Well, it's not just
It's
cyclical. He also represents a static flow, stasis.
it's
Like, yeah, it's a
change, but
cycle, but it never diverts, it never shifts. There's no change in the cycle. You can't really stop it.
and
It's just
that's
like,
what
fuck that. Fuck that. Why do circle when you can do squiggly line that goes all over the map? No, Tzeentch, you have to color inside the lines. Fuck you, I do what I want, says Tzeentch.
Color inside the lines. What are lines?
And then Tzeentch starts scribbling new lines with a black crayon on the paper. Those are lines.
Well, that's the other thing is that if you think about it, if he invades Nurgle's garden, I mean, it's going to mess up the agricultural production. There's no efficiency. There's no, order. Everything is out of balance, out of season, out of whack.
Let's see, another way to describe Tzeentch is in contrast to Nurgle, which we've kind of already covered. His inherent spirit, if he can be said to possess one, manifests tellingly in the sorcery he and his followers practice. It takes the shape of an unholy flame, raw warp energy, spontaneous mutation, transfiguration, and illusion. Forces of Tzeentch do not engage in open warfare. Yeah, they much prefer sneaky agendas because it's a lot easier.
Although when they do, it's again complete chaos
Oh yeah,
because
because they've
because you
already
are
weakened you beforehand.
because you are having those guys like the flamers just shooting gouts of flame. Although when they touch you, you don't burn. In fact, you're cold. You feel a sort of coldness.
Then your skin begins to itch, and then it starts growing warts, and then eyes, and then fingers.
Yep. Until finally your spine breaks apart and you're a chittering, gibbering mass of flesh.
Either that, or they just straight up have you hallucinate and kill the rest of your squad.
That's true.
That's another way. Or they could just say screw it and just lightning bolt you.
Or in fact, have you attack somebody and attack actually another force of Tzeentch, but because you did that, you left your defenses open 25 years in the future, which Tzeentch will then exploit.
Or last but not least, you straight up just get eaten by a giant slore. Many will go into the mouth of the slore that day.
If you think about it, that's the most chaotic thing, or the most unpredictable thing, is a Tzeentch guy that actually is just a bloodthirsty killer.
But yeah, that's the kind of thing about Tzeentch. 1001 plots, yeah, he has a million of them. Sometimes that almost goes against him.
Though
And
they
sometimes it
bring up
actually does, because that's kind of the point.
they bring up here, which I think is my favorite story of Tzeentch's esotericness and complex plotting. So there is a guy called Darius Vexa. He was a low-level scribe working the Departamento Minatorum for decades, laboring on the Imperial freighter Pocarante. He was responsible for cataloging tithes collected from manufactorum worlds and hive cities, mostly replacement parts for machines and munitions for the Imperial Guard defending Cadia and other planets throughout the Segmentum Obscurus. Then, one day, Iliara Julian, a young Warren officer who had recently joined the crew, had piercing blue eyes, a bright smile, and a cheerful demeanor that brought Vexa a measure of happiness for a few minutes he saw her each work shift. One day, she then came to Vexa with a problem that she had made an error on a requisition form. She asked for 20 crates of 5mm left winding cogs when she intended to request 25mm left winding cogs. She asked Vexa to correct the record so that her erroneous request was the official one, explaining with a wink that no one need be the wiser. Vex complied, falsified the documents. Months later, Cadian munition sergeants discovered that 25mm cogs they needed to repair over a dozen Basilisk tanks of the 266th Mechanized Company had not arrived. The tanks would not be available to defend Kaiser Dearth against a demonic horde that descended on the world with warpfire of blue and pink.
That is a very radical example of how far ahead that Tzeentch can think.
And here's the thing. Was Ilara a servant of Tzeentch?
Possibly, but also it just might be a case of exploiting something that could have happened, like one small little slip up.
And that's why. And that's why I love it, because it's this interconnected plot, but you still don't know everything. And you have that desire then to want to get the answer, and that's how Tzeentch gets you.
Yeah,
Then
because the thing is, sometimes he'll do these things, and other times it's a little more like that's the thing with him. It's just you can't really predict that which is unpredictable.
You can try, but
Well, if you
Tzeentch
try,
knows
you're
all.
much more likely to fall if you do.
Yep.
It's
And
actually
then,
the best way to describe Tzeentch is if you ever play a Delta Green game, kind of low key. The more you know, the crazier you get. The crazier you get, the more you're likely to join the crazy.
yep. Then they bring up another story of the Changeling, one of my favorite. The guy who can shapeshift into anything and is just a prankster, like in this case, where he took the form of Orc war boss Urkfang Grubbs of the Evil Sons clan. Uh, he, seated on top of the prize war buggy, spent hours regaling the orcs about the Law of True Speed. In this tale, Gork and Mork had to race each other to see which one was the fastest. Then he described each of the contest, embellished his tale, that there was this race that spanned half a continent. Uh, he did not conclude his tale, which would have required him to declare one god faster than the other, and thereby enraging many of the orcs present. Instead, he declared they would recreate the race of Gork and Mork, so in doing so, they would become the Wa of True Speed. The orcs divided themselves into two teams, mounted their bikes, buggies, and battle wagons. They rode onto the night and drove off a 500-meter cliff, thus ending the Wa of True Speed and the Wa of Grubs to boot.
That's another example, and it kind of shows that it's not just the Imperium of Man that Chaos fights against. They fight against all forces and try to suborn all forces.
Also, Tzeentch being a lawyer during the dark age of technology? Hmm.
I can
What would
see
he
some
try to
really
do?
stupid rulings being done simply because of Tzeentch.
I'd see him actually be a lawyer during the age of strife just on a planet and just making bizarre rulings, like farting is banned on Sundays.
No, I got it. The only people that can handle the dead are the abominable intelligences because they themselves are already dead, because you used dead corpses to make them.
Hmm. Well, no, if it's abominable intelligence, then it would have been just machine.
Servitor, it doesn't matter. I'm just kind
Yeah,
of, I'm just kind of,
but yeah, I could see that. The
and
servitor
that culminates in a servitor rebellion because oopsie doopsie, it turns out that one of them got infected by because it was a psyker
logic
in
virus.
life. It was a psyker in life that got infected by a logic virus personally crafted by Tzeentch, thus wiping the planet and having it turned into a servitor world.
So, despite Tzeentch having an immutable form, he does have a presence in the warp. He does have a realm.
And his realm is nonsense, literally. Have fun finding anywhere.
It is crystal, mazes, roving, warp energy.
It's not
It's
just
a
crystals and
massive,
mazes, it's also like spiraling towers and labyrinths. Oh, you mentioned mazes.
yeah. You got your silver towers. You've got, you know, just complete madness.
Mists, suns flying across so you can't tell what time of day it is. Sometimes the laws of, well, I mean, the laws of reality always break down, but like sometimes they intentionally break in a way that makes no sense. What do you mean you have to go right to go left?
Mhm.
Yeah, you heard me. You take a right, and now it takes you to the left.
Enjoy a non-Euclidean hellhole, bastard.
Yep.
I could see a guide of like as a demonic familiar just taunting people.
Oh, you want to go to the basement? Oh, you just follow me, and it just goes upstairs. Wait, what? But we're on the third floor. No, 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 no. This is to the basement.
Just casually stroll by Tzeentch, just
Oh,
as you're
and don't
walking.
forget that you have to ignore the secret door in favor of the super secret door,
They both look the same though.
and they're both not visible. No, and they're both visible, completely visible. I know. That's the point.
As to say, two individuals might enter Tzeentch's realm at the same time. One exits moments later, reports years have passed, while the other could spend centuries of real time in Tzeentch's realm, but swear he had only gone for minutes.
Well, I mean, that's the warp in general. The time and reality break apart in the warp. It's just in Tzeentch's realm, it's at its worst. In fact, actually, this is very similar to this is something that you can stumble across as you're entering the Chaos Wastes or nearing the Chaos Wastes. The Eternal City, the maze-like nightmare city that can sometimes appear.
Oh, that is is that Tzeentch's
It's not
city?
purely Tzeentch's city. I
Yeah.
believe he's
Well,
partially responsible for it, though.
there's apparently though a guardian of the maze. So he's a protector of Tzeentch's realm, but he's more of a gatekeeper and observer. Rumor tell of a path through Tzeentch's realm that, in theory, anyone may follow to discover infinite knowledge. They must then travel through 9 gates. These portals, 3 times the height of a man, appear as golden arches wreathed in pink and blue warp fire. Then there's the Guardian of the Maze. Perhaps as the bizarre temporal nature of Tzeentch's realm, the Guardian manifests as a giant disembodied mouth hovering above all 9 gates simultaneously. At each gate, the mouth ponderously speaks, asking those seekers of knowledge one of the 999 riddles of Zarathustra. Those who answer the riddles correctly may pass. Those who fail are doomed to wander the labyrinth for eternity, racked with insanity and regret over the infinite knowledge that might have been theirs.
What if you intentionally get it wrong just to have fun?
Oh, you're still trapped in there.
Yeah, but what if this is exactly what you want?
Was it?
Yes. At least for the first 200 years.
Then at the supposed center is Tzeentch's Sanctum Sanctorum
By the way,
of the
one of the
Impossible Fortress.
999, you better hope that you don't get the one that's the trick question. You know, the one where there is actually no answer. No,
What
seriously,
is.
you
Yeah,
literally can't answer it.
because you don't have the mouth for it?
No, because it never had an answer. You have to give
Then
an
again,
answer, and it can't be silence, because that's not the answer. But nothing you can give will give you the correct answer.
so the Impossible Fortress is a crystalline castle composed of the same materials as the labyrinth. Imbalanced spires spontaneously emerge from the ever shifting foundation. Gates, doors, and portals slowly open, uh, as if yawning with the ennui of ages, only to slam shut like mouths of terrible beasts and then disappear.
By the way, his library is pretty neat because the books are so filled with knowledge, they are actually smart enough to wander around and argue with each other. I think that's really cool.
Tzeentch has the Library of Babel, and he's read it multiple times, and he understands it all. You've heard of that one. It's the every possible combination of English letters.
No, no. Here's the best part. You have to have the library card to use Tzeentch's library because it's all in Voynich manuscript. You know, the untranslatable language that no one has figured out what the codex is.
No, not Voynich. It's a No, he's got it in a language that hasn't been made yet,
No, it's a
and never
language
will
that
be.
was made, but not by man, 20,000 years in the future. What made the language? Not even Tzeentch knows, because that's the
Mm.
mystery. No, seriously, don't tell him. He ordered Kairos not to tell him.
So apparently, there's a guy Bach Samael, dubbed the lunatic scriber of Hamclove Prime, uh, claimed to have traveled and returned from Tzeentch's realm in early M41. He attests he saw nothing but a bleak hill on which a single leafless tree stood. Dialis Dial, the heretic illuminator of Phelan 10, who was later executed for heresy, described Tzeentch's realm as a barren desert landscape populated by deformed headless humanoids that continuously split and reformed into new bodies. All is true, all is false, all is as is in the realm of the father of lies.
I
When
have
there's an
no idea where
interrogation
you
with
are.
this,
Oh, we're at the interrogation?
yeah, I'm not going to read through it, but what's funny is that he's interrogating a guy who has 4 mouths.
No claims, not a manifestation. I am he. The change you replace. Manifest it. Manifestation. Manifest change. Change manifest. You realize that such a claim and your obvious mutations are heresy and ground for execution. I have nothing to fear. The transition from what you call life to what you call death is but one change in the grand scheme. Schemes change. Fears change. Fears change schemes. Fear schemes.
Also, it's funny. There's notes here. Um, both individuals involved in this were executed later for heresy.
I
It is
mean,
also a, it is
yeah,
also a crime to view or allow to be viewed this record by non-authorized personnel, and it is not for archiving. But why is it there?
it was always there. When did your mutations manifest? I have an image scan of you from 519 in which you appear normal, and I have always been thus. Thus I have always been. Manifest thusly. Answers will not sa- Your cryptic answers will not save you. I have no wish to be cryptic. The date escapes me at the moment. Escape cryptic. Escape crypt. Very well. Are there others like you in the hive? Other followers of Tzeentch? No, none. I grow tired of answering your questions. I will answer all in time. All in time.
You know what I imagine now is there's a mutation where you just get Three Stooges voices.
Oh, that'd be great. By the Emperor, how many cultists are there in in Hive Stanislas? Only me, all in time. I want names, names. I have no names to give you. Tzeentch, Char, Changer, Lies, Shunch, Conspirator, Chen. Name lies, names lie. That's my favorite part in the interrogation right there. Damn your eyes, heretic! I will have answers. I will answer all in time. Damn your answers, damned man. All in time, all in time, all damned in time.
Unintelligible sounds follow.
I think he just cursed him with insanity.
Well, no, remember,
I mean, he
both are
was
executed
executed too,
later.
so he probably went nuts.
He was telling the truth. We're now on to the minions. So
Yeah,
we
sorry
have,
about that.
we have Tzeentch's demons. We have the classic Lords of Chains, the giant avian humanoid bird creatures with, you know, wizard's radiance, a staff, and complete control over magic.
Oh yeah. They have aeons to collect information, so much so these entities are effectively omniscient. Many believe that these demons have the gift of prophecy and can see in the future. Now,
I don't see them referencing, but there is Kairos Fateweaver, again, the one that has two heads, the one that can see in the past and the future. That guy's a bastard.
legend has it that when a Lord of Change looks at mortal beings, he sees not only their physical appearance, but their hopes, dreams, past, and future. Few mortals can endure the penetrating stare, and their scrutiny can destroy the sanity of those they gaze upon. Then there's Daemon Princes.
So those who submit and end up becoming Dame Princess. Now you'd assume most of them would be sorcerers or magic users, but
Yes and no.
they're people. They're people of great ambition.
You could literally, if you had the ambition to be the biggest hot dog vendor in the galaxy, you could become a Daemon Prince of Tzeentch.
I'm now imagining. The first thing in my head was Elon Musk as a Daemon Prince of Tzeentch.
Oh, that's too obvious. Bubba
He's
Gump
just
Shrimp.
Forrest Gump. Well,
First,
actually, no, it would make sense. Forrest Gump is a dick because he was always there at these historical moments, and you would never suspect it.
you know,
I was there when Horus slew the Emperor.
what
It
happened was I put a lot of stock in some fruit company, and then next thing I know, I see a giant parrot talking to me.
tells me I'm a prince.
Don't gotta worry about Lieutenant Dan no more. I gave him legs. I gave him new ones. A lot
Many
of them.
ones,
He can choose which ones he wants.
and I cured Jenny. Wait, no, she's dead.
I wish Janet could be here, but she's kind of in the gardens. I want to save her from the gardens. There you go. Forrest Gump as a Daemon Prince of Tzeentch, trying to save Jenny from the Garden of Nurgle. I think I just came up with a really good 40k character there.
Well, actually, there was oh, I'm blanking on the name of the guy, but it was that was it from Fantasy Warhammer Fantasy? It was the twins. The one that was attached to the brother. And there was the one that was the wizard controlling the body, and then the body itself. I forget what the name of it was.
I can tell you that you're gonna die on a Tuesday. Which Tuesday? Only man may not know the time nor the hour. But you told me I'm gonna die on a Tuesday. Yep.
Life is fun. Life is fun. I like that.
Life is
It's
like a
like a
box of
box of warp.
chocolate.
It's like a box of warp chocolates.
But
You
life is
never know
like a
what you're
box.
gonna get.
You'll never know what you're gonna get. Try one, and then you try one, and it's like, oh, this is normal milk chocolate. You can try another one if you want, and it's like 20 million Scovilles, which instantly clogs your throat because your body can't handle it and will die. It's like condensed pepper spray. Oh, what
And
day
each
is it?
one,
Oh, it was 11:59 on a Monday. Well, I guess it's Tuesday. You are gonna die.
it's a Tuesday somewhere.
It's Tuesday in some parts of the galaxy.
Oh, Zen, thank you. Village the Curseling. And what was funny though with that is it turns out the brother was still somewhat intelligent and basically turned Village into his puppet. Uh, One of the good things of the end times was seeing some of these villains get their comeuppance. But on to the next guy, horrors, with that classic metal model-esque horror of Tzeentch with the multiple mouths.
There's the pink horror.
You got the
You
pink
also have the
horrors,
heralds and the horrors
yep,
properly.
and they can split into blue ones, and then they can split into brimstone ones.
Yeah,
Which means
that's
yes, which means yes, in Warhammer 40k then, if and Age of Sigmar, there was a point in time where if you have a 10 unit of pink horrors, I believe that effectively makes eventually, if they all die, they split into two horrors. So that's 20 horrors, which split into two brimstone horror units, which is 40 brimstone horrors. Which means one 10-man unit is 70 models.
there's a reason why they don't do the brimstone ones usually.
They still, well, actually not. They do some weird rules for it, but the other thing is that the brimstones and the blues, they're not that good in combat. Then again, if you're a Tzeentch player and you're having them in melee combat, you fucked up.
By the way, the best
Oh,
thing
Zen,
about
yeah.
horrors are they can sometimes form their own battle standards. Like they transform into them.
Oh,
Yep, some of them
yeah. I
will turn
never
into the battle standards.
never heard of that. That would be a fun thing to
They can
make.
also sometimes spontaneously generate perverse musical instruments of a kind. They could literally just pull out drums and bongos and flutes.
I'm trying to remember what. No, the one on the kit though, it's like a horn of some sort. But Zen, you're right. It is like the Venture Brothers guy, pissed off Dr. Orpheus. Was it 2 years, 17 days, 45 minutes? What? From a stroke. Good day, sir. But then the next unit is the Screamers and the Discs. Those are the
AKA
flying
Sky
guys.
Sharks.
And the discs are when you put them in like little nice shape that you can ride on.
So they're predatory creatures, obviously. They cannot be said to be intelligent, but they are at least animal cunning. Sometimes a champion can get a screamer as a mount, which is pretty great.
Yep. Flying on top of the battlefield, blasting people with magics, and running the fuck away.
Then there are flamers, which I confused for blue horrors because I mean, I'm gonna be real with you. They're blue. They scream fire.
Yep.
Can you blame me?
And some of them can ride on top of chariots
That's
made of
great.
the made of the uh, screamers.
You
And
kind
then
of
there's
see
the
a little
horrors
bit there.
yeah, and then there's the horrors that steal them.
And as for the
Yep.
mortal ones, the most obvious ones were the Thousand Suns.
Yep.
Who'd have thought that
If
a Space Marine Legion that was prone to mutation, whose founder went on the only, like, one of the only planets that survived the Age of Strife with a majority psyker population, who'd have fucking thought that Tzeentch would want that?
I mean, one thing, he's called Magnus the Red. Red's not Tzeentch's color.
That's the point. No one
Yeah.
would expect it.
So yeah, they're if you need a refresher, Thousand Sons Psychers, they liked psychic powers so much that they kept doing it after the Emperor said no.
And they did it even though they had at least at multiple times realized there's some pretty spooky shit in the war because they're like,
But
fuck it, I gotta know.
and then when
And then
Magnus
good
decided to
old Magnus
warn,
did the dumbest thing ever, which is when he kicked open a door to say, "Hey, Dad, Horus is doing something." Oh no, I accidentally broke the thing. Demons are flooding in. I'm sorry, Dad. Son, I am busy building a tunnel to an elf whorehouse. I am going to send the brother you fucking hate to spank you.
and then Horus comes in and says, "You know what you should do instead?
Kill
Kill
him.
him."
Because Lehman hates him. He's like, sure, fuck it, sure.
Also, because he's the War Master. Why are you defying the War Master? And then after they become traitors, they suffered from mutation, and then a guy named Ahriman decided to cast the rubric of
I
Ahriman,
can fix this. Oh no, I've turned you all into dust. Whoops.
and the ones with psychic powers became credible psychers. So it's now a legion of automatons and wizards, with only one of them having been returned back to normal, and I think is alive. Technically, Yvrain made some of them also a lot turn back to life as well, but she then tossed them into the warp like the bitch she is.
Oh yeah, Lehman's also used to playing Executioner. Kinda, yeah, kinda no. They play with that a few times, but they also try to play against that, like due to timing and shit.
Well, no, his forces were the hunters.
Yeah, but
They
like
took out
they've
redacted
occasionally
and
tried to
redacted.
hint. Yeah, they occasionally try to hint that he's responsible for redacting those two.
Yep. Then there's other followers. There's the Scourged, dark red power armor, gold trim. Been blessed to hear every lie ever spoken by man. It turned them insane.
Imagine being blessed to do this even before you went crazy.
Well, actually, if I remember the story, they were sent to a planet and had to eliminate population at the behest of the Inquisition, and the chapter master wanted to know, you know, truth, wanted to know basically truth, how to tell from truth and lies. And Tzeentch was like, all right, you'll know every lie that's ever known. That way, then, if you hear something you haven't heard, it's the truth.
Imagine being dumb enough to fall for that.
Well, no, he just prayed randomly. It wasn't to Tzeentch. Tzeentch just blessed that.
No, like apparently they dedicated themselves to that. Wow.
They went insane. And I guarantee you, probably a Tzeentch demon showed up and said, Tzeentch can protect you, and that wasn't a lie.
I feel like
I
this
mean,
is more
you
of
have to
a.
you have to
I
you have
feel
to
like this
understand.
is more of a their fault.
You are hearing every lie that has ever been made. Humanity has been around for, depending on when they were cursed, possibly 50,000 years. That is 50,000 years and trillions upon quadrillions of humans. Every little lie that has ever been spoken.
I mean, honestly, all you'd hear is because they're all talking at once.
And then you hear the one thing, the Emperor is alive. The Emperor protects. The Inquisition the Inquisition did not betray you. As soon as you hear those things, then you're like, oh, oh. Then there's the Oracles of Change, which I don't remember. I've seen the Scourged.
So what
But
happened was he was a librarian. He was he either chose or was compelled to embrace Tzeentch. They don't give reasons why.
they are, yeah, they just named the Oh no, they were part of the Abyssal Crusade, which was when a guy judged like 30 Space Marine chapters to be, um, uh, I guess, in doubt, and sent them into the Eye of Terror. It turned out that guy was a follower of chaos and basically created like 27 different chaos space marine groups.
By the way, the reason I think that's kind of dumb is when he said it's the first time he gets that new order, Squirrel Killer, is because they also retconned by saying all of them forgot why they were purged. Like, there's a book that kind of contradicts that none of them actually know.
No, no, there's a reason why they had to be purged. And then again, it was only Gilliman and um Dorn that were there and present. Or at least Dorn was. Maybe Russ knows.
I feel like in the attempt to build it up, they fucked it up.
Well, listen, they have to explain away why nobody remembers them, yet they know they've been forgotten. They can never with this buildup, they can never reveal what it is because it has to be something worse than the Horus Heresy.
That's their fault. No, that's on them. That's on them. That's why you don't do mystery boxes.
This wasn't a mystery. This was something that was set up in the beginning of the lore.
Mystery box. Also, not really, because all of the legions were known in first edition.
Well, well, didn't they say the Rainbow Warriors were one of them?
They
Which
were.
the thing is, though, is that they are there to basically be like, oh, I don't want to be related to any of these legions, so I'm just going to say unknown.
No, it was literally just a case of, hey, you can use these guys to make your own unique Chaos or Imperial Space Marine army. That was the point on why there was two of them.
I think it was also wasn't it an homage to the Lost Legions of Rome?
Later on, it became that.
Let,
I
let's
just I
see.
just think because they kept trying to build up like what could have been worse, they fucked it up because they basically created a mystery box.
Well, they obliterated knowledge of the Rangdan xenocides.
Translation: we didn't really come up with anything, so we're expecting the audience to actually fill it in for us. Mystery box.
I mean, at least in 40k it works because you're not going to reveal a bunch of stuff.
No, in 40k it works because it's not a critical plot key. That's the reason it works.
So the other forces of
It's
Tzeentch.
not like having it be the core of your film trilogy, unlike another movie that had an old man drink cow milk from a walrus.
One of Tzeentch's ploys to get people to then investigate and learn about Warhammer. So all just as planned. But moving
Speaking
on,
of just as planned, sorcerers and psychers, well, no shit. Tzeentch tracks quite a bit of them.
so
Who'd have thought that if you treated psychers like shit, they might go to the guy that's like, don't worry, I got you back. I'll give you a
it
new one. Literally.
no, it's not treating them as shit. It's the fact that they have a raw, open access to the warp. When they are, repressed, when their powers are repressed, when they're constrained, when they are exposed to the Golden Throne, they get some protection. But otherwise, they are pure prey to malefic forces.
Yep.
Same thing with mutants, because mutants are feared and cursed by their mutations. They are a prime tool to be manipulated by Tzeentch.
And again, mortal leaders, ambition is an aspect of Tzeentch, so ergo, obviously. Like the annoyed
Is
hive nobles, like, oh, how dare I not get the promotion I wanted to actually govern an entire sector? I am going to use all of these psychers that I've actually hidden from the black ships as part of my plan to kill them with warp fire and blame it on someone else. And then he has Tzeentch go, good job, buddy.
No, 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 no. That's not convoluted enough.
Hey, Biggs.
He was here
We're
all the
talking about my
time.
favorite chaos god, and I'm very happy that we're talking about Bluebird Boy. And I like to do the magics. I like to do the plans. I love me rubrics. Love me Magnus, simple as.
Actually, this would be appropriate for Tzeentch. You love the concepts of a plan.
The best plan is to
I,
actually
I
make it
like.
up.
I think the part about Tzeentch that I like too. It's like the idea of nothing is forever, and hey, even if you fail, you did something right.
No, you failed successfully.
Change.
Exactly.
I
So
will
you have
say, as I've been reading like the first 24 pages, I will say this book is kind of like one of the least interesting ones of the four so far.
I think it's because
S-
it's just going over basic lore.
Yeah, but it's not doing it as like the one I love about Tome of Decay is it really does a good job. Like with Tzeentch is kind of a no shit. Okay, here's my 5D move chess set to win. Like once you get them, you
I mean,
kind of understand them. Ah, we're finally at the Long War.
Yes, the Long War again is Legion, the Traitor Legion's view of the war against the Imperium. For the Horse Heresy was just the beginning. They never stopped.
Translation: It's coping and seething after getting their shit pushed in.
Well, there's also the fact that there was never an official declaration of surrender, never a wipeout of all the traitors.
Translation:
Um,
This is coping and seething after getting their shit pushed in.
Many of the forces did not participate in the Siege of Terra, and
This has all of the energy of like Baghdad Bob explaining why the U.S. air drone strikes are not smashing against Baghdad.
and
He,
don't
he,
forget,
he says blankly
the
as a
Imperium
tank
has the
cracks open the gate.
again, according to current lore, the Imperium is failing. They're barely surviving.
that's what I
That's
was
their
about to.
fault.
That's that's what I was about to say. I mean, it really is that one of those instances where you really just got to wipe that one out.
I mean, it still lasted for what, an extra 10k years?
That's why it's called the Long War. Also because nobody knows the exact date. But through Tzeentch, I mean, you can find so many powers, so much influence. You will be able to understand your enemies, be able to wipe them out, uh, control the fates of planets, of men. Everything, everyone will be pawns
Note that it says
for you to
can,
string
not
along.
will. So yeah, you're just as likely to turn into the pile of Gribblies on the corner here.
And even then, it is all a part of Tzeentch's plan, all a part of his will.
Tzeentch is just it is what it is, amplified by like a million.
Tricking the gullible and the hopeless into believing that there is a path to power.
I think it's just like the Tome of Fate is doing a really bad job of like getting me motivated here.
Well, next up we can move on to the Servants of Fate, the details of the different characters you can play as.
This is where it'll probably pick up because I think the biggest problem is that since this is the first of the four, they didn't really try to make you think about the gods in a way that's different. Like they really did an excellent job with Nurgle. So there's a
I,
really high
I would
bar there.
imagine. I would imagine too, because this is Zinch, they probably have a fuckload of magical goodies that you have
Oh
in
god,
this.
Yeah,
yeah. You're gonna love all of the sorcerer shit they added.
I mean, and there really has Tzeentch has been kind of straightforward since the beginning. There hasn't been a reinterpretation of like Slaanesh from being just you know tits and violence into like more
Blurbs!
esoteric forms of pleasure, or
Which
Nurgle
is
being
fascinating.
yeah, seeing more as sort of a cycle of rebirth rather than just pustules and gross.
I'm gonna be frank, even Korn has more variety than Tzeentch, because Tzeentch is like, oh, I'm gonna do this thing no one expects. If I want that, I'd see a Hollywood movie.
Tzeentch is more different in the ways that his powers can manifest. Like there's a bunch of different groups of Thousand Suns that have different branches of magic. Like some focus on time manipulation, some focus on
Yeah, but that's
summoning.
not like the deity itself, and that's kind of the
Mm,
problem with this book. Like,
I mean, how can you can't really put down Tzeentch? You, you can't really describe him.
He's the never ending cycle of change, change, change. That's what I like about it. It's simple.
yeah, but
And change can mean anything. It's just a really abstract concept, Adam. You just need to be creative.
I am creative. It's just when you constantly change, it just if it's always change, then you're almost as static as Nurgle, you know?
And there you go. There is the paradox of chaos, my friend. It's almost like that this is a horrible thing to follow and that this will lead to ruin and damnation.
Fair enough. I don't know. I think it's just
It,
because the other books handled the first chapter a fuckload better than this one.
and I do have to
Although
say,
I'll be blunt, I think the corn chapter is also similarly dull. We didn't focus as hard as we did as last time.
like honestly, the Tzeentch stuff, it really shines in the models. Just
Oh,
the
it's gonna.
various ways
My
mutations are
prediction.
shown.
My prediction is after this first chapter, you're gonna love chapter 2 and 3 because these are always the strongest parts in the tomes. So let's get into it by covering the Legions of Change and the Thousand Suns.
So as we went over, they were the psychers that went too much psychery and had to be put down by the guys that use runes, not psychic powers.
Oh yeah, the quasi demons that they say aren't demons because of course they aren't.
Yep, yeah. And yeah,
Hence
then
one of the reasons why I never really liked the Space Wolves all that much. The hypocrisy.
Well, then they're basically one step. They're basically one step below corn.
Also, they're just like, you stop using the word wolf, please, please.
what I do love is that the Imperium actually has mistranslated everything. They just translated it as like Space Wolf and Wolf this. Technically, the actual name of the chapter is The Route, or the Vilka Fenrica. It is not Space Wolf. That is just how it translates to in Low Gothic.
I think
Or
that's just
High
their
Gothic.
attempts to try to divorce themselves from the wolf fetish.
All right, enough bitching about the lore. We're gonna be here all night.
Yeah. So, let's say motivations, themes of the Thousand Suns. They've been fractured since Horus Heresy and the Rubric of Ahriman, in having individual sorcerer lords like to keep their foes at a distance using trickery, deception, powerful spells. They also have access to their Rubric Marines.
Yeah,
Which,
basically they send them as the dumb muscle.
yeah.
Dumb muscle
And
wizard, kind of
Now,
standard
yeah,
setup.
and there's been some interesting plots that they've used. Like they've had them be just statues on a planet, and then when the Imperium invades, they just get surrounded
Well, yeah,
by
because
these.
the trick is all you got to do is transmute the armor to look different and just
Yeah. Another thing was just taking dust, pouring it on a space station, and then summoning in those suits of armor. So
or
bam,
alternatively, if you're able to make the Rubric Marines a little more with it, just have them possess the organic machinery of the station.
they
which one was
they
more durable? Is that the Plague Marines or the Rubric Marines?
Plagues
Plague
tend to
Marines
be
are
much
more
more
durable.
durable.
That's the guys get the +1 toughness. The Tzeentch ones get the invulnerable save
Yeah, ward saves are pretty strong.
because that's the trade-off. It's harder for you to wound the Plague Marine, but with the Tzeentch one, it can be anything from a simple las gun shot to a las cannon shot. If you pass that invul save, it's negated.
Yeah, basically, Plague Marines take a licking. Rubric Marine. Sometimes you just like try to blast them with a fucking big ass cannon, and no,
They're still standing.
no, it just got
But then
absorbed.
next up is the Alpha Legion. It really isn't my favorite Legion because of the fact that we don't know that much about them.
Ambiguity.
Well, also the
They're,
Horus Heresy books kind of completely butt fucked how to handle them.
now that
You say that, but come on,
so
the wind up was pretty lame near the end.
yeah, the central premise of the Alpha Legion
Not even
is
they
that
know what the fuck they're doing. Don't
they
know
don't
what
even
I'm
know.
doing.
Remember,
Don't know what
they're
I'm
called
side I'm on. Don't know who I'm fighting for. Don't know why I'm fighting. I just know I must betray.
well, that's the thing. Many heads of, if you think about it, they are the Hydra. There are many heads to a Hydra, but they would all have an individual brain. No one is controlling them, and that's their fall, or that's their
That's why they
weakness.
fell,
Hey,
because they
just a
don't know
little
what
off.
the fuck they're doing.
Hey, just a little off topic, but I just wanted to say I am Alfarius.
There's a funny line in a book about the Alpha Legion where there are a bunch of there's a whole bunch of different diverse arrays of Alpha Legion, and then there's just these guys. They all look the same face, everything, and the guy says, "I am Alfarius," and basically everyone just shit talks him. It's like, yeah, we know, settle down.
As for Space Wolves, yeah, they're not my favorite Legion. I'm kind of dunking on it because, like I said, the first chapter doesn't do a really good job in selling the book to me. Space Wolves are fine. They're not remotely my favorite out of the Loyalists. Ah, shit. What would be my favorite? I think my favorite out of the Loyalists, just because they're just kind of, jolly good fun, are the Salamanders, just because fuck it,
Oh, come
kill
on.
it with fire.
I gotta say, personally, I don't like how everyone's like, "Oh, I love the salamanders. Oh, I love the salamanders," because they actually treat people with respect and
No, they
blah
kill it with
blah.
fire.
They kill, but they're also like kill with
Another
fire.
one I also really
They
like are
have
the
one of the
Iron Hands,
lowest.
dude.
They're one of the weakest legions. They have one of the lowest populations,
Okay.
lowest troop counts, last amount of
Mm-hmm.
successors. It's just like
Uh-huh.
you like them because they're technically the good guys.
Yeah?
Come on, pick an actual
The,
pick an
Okay.
actual chat.
Iron
Pick
Hands,
the Doom
asshole.
Legion, Malevolent Marines or
Iron
Marines
Hands, dude.
Malevolent.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
same here.
white consoles, black consoles.
White Scars are also fun if you like speed.
I
Uh,
kind of like the idea of the Iron Hands because I think it's probably a good idea to be buddies with the dudes that make your vehicles.
Yep.
I mean, I don't really have a Legion. I think the Alpha Legion's kind of like the one I find least interesting. My favorite Trader Legions are probably the Night Lords.
You know what? I think I just realized something. I think I know why I hate the salamanders. It's because they're all black.
Oh. Ah,
Yeah, I think
completely.
that's the biggest
Fun fact,
problem
just
is since 40k keeps trying to shoot out all the light bulbs, I'm kind of doubling down on. But they're the good because if you shoot all the fucking light bulbs, it gets boring. You need a positive to emphasize the shadow. God damn it. Meanwhile, with
then you
Chaos,
haven't
I
read,
like the Night Lords just because holy shit, look at what they fucking do.
and
Yeah.
I take it you haven't read much of the literature for the Iron Hands now. I would take it too, right?
I've read some of it.
I
They're
like,
cold
It's very
calculating motherfuckers that don't give a shit.
yeah, that's why I like them too.
Oh,
the
wait a minute. You humans can't keep up with us? Just replace your legs with a robot.
Yep.
that's one of the oh god, I forgot which fucking one is it too. It's basically the character that's the not chapter master, where it's basically him slowly realizing, hey, maybe emotions aren't totally gay, which I think is pretty neat.
And then there's the fact that during the heresy they kept murdering each other.
Yeah.
It's like, how dare you actually strike out? We're in mourning. Our father's dead. We're gonna make a robot version of him.
I'm gonna be blunt. Like we're talking about all of the legions. At the core of this is I'm more of a treadhead. Give me an IG regiment and I'm a lot happier.
So
I
with
much prefer
the
the IGs. I can list you several legions that I much prefer over Space Marine chapters. That's kind of the problem.
though, did you realize though that all of those legions are actually the Alpha Legion?
Oh yeah, they're always going to be. But no, straight up. I think one of my
Though,
favorite, just straight up, one of my favorite regiments that I find fun are the Elysian Drop Troopers, where they just fucking parachute down like mad lads with shotguns. Some other good ones are Morty and Iron Guards because they're good at being assholes to the population. And last but not least, I'm a big fan of the Armageddon Steel Legion with all the tanks.
oh, you're not a fan of the Death Corps of Krieg?
They're kind of okay.
Come on, it's the meme. Shovels,
I
gas
prefer
masks.
I prefer my crazy Brits with the
I
space
mean,
shotguns flying with
People
jump
confusing them
jets.
with Nazis for some reason.
I mean, they're cool, but unfortunately, they're the most overused Imperial Guard chapter now, so I hate them.
Yeah.
I kind of wish the Jacobian Janissaries would come back,
Macabians are great.
but I guess that was.
I like
I
to
mean,
make
I
my own.
guess they were,
they never had models.
I also like the
Unfortunately.
Talarn Desert Raiders. There's a reason why I used them for an only war campaign once.
That I was in, and I played the Saint Muhammad.
Oh yeah,
Great fun
he
time.
accidentally became an Imperial Saint. It was really hilarious.
Hey, remember when we were talking about Black Crusade?
Yes.
Sorry, it's
No,
just like we're
no.
talking.
This is part of this. This is part of this.
Yeah,
It's all part of the plan.
yeah. The Alpha Legion wanted us to talk about all of this stuff, mainly
No,
because
they used. Yeah.
they wanted specifically Tzeentch wanted you to shit all over the Salamanders and to bring up
The
the
thing.
Marines Malevolent.
Yeah.
It was his plan, you see.
They do involve trickery, but it's more of that spy game, fake identities, counterattacks. You know,
And
will-
that's cool.
willful deception.
Alpha Legion
The way I
emphasizing that is cool. It's when you get into the weeds of them that they become really fucking lame.
the way I view the Alpha Legion and the way how I think they're supposed to be used is, I think it's supposed to be an instance where GW is basically giving you the keys and saying go crazy, and you're allowed to make your own lore off of that. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's why I love making my own Imperial Guard regiments. They're fun.
I mean, I think that's for every legion, for every army basically. But I guess the Alpha Legion are the ones that previously they were the ones that like, do you want to use Imperial infantry, and cults, that sort of stuff? That's your thing. They're now more also deception, you know, outflanking, the kind of uh, guerrilla tactics.
Actually, I've put final thoughts on it, and yeah, you're right. White Scar's better than Salamanders. They're fun. They go fast. Don't you want Mongolians on bikes?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite loyalist now that I've put thought into it. Night Lords are still probably one of my... Night Lords are Iron Warriors, although the Iron Warriors had some really dumb plans, so Night Lord's better.
Honestly, for me, I think favorite loyalist is Dark Angels. Um, they have interesting heresy lore, and just they have that history of being the first legion. Um,
Fun
there's
fact:
also
Did you
very
know the Fun fact: Did you know the Rock was actually the name of a gay nightclub that was located to the early GW headquarters?
Yep.
and
It actually explains their schizophrenia and fear about inner traders from the old days very well, if you think about it in that respect. Insert joke here.
nice that I wonder if that means that their battle can be the apparently ancient gay British slang of Polari.
It probably is, and you hear in the rhythm of the night fucking blaring from
Yeah.
loudspeakers. But nah, like I said, Thousand Suns are fun. They're just kind of inflexible, and they're not
Yeah.
like they're cool. Alpha
They're
Legion is
wizards.
mostly cool as a character to use or as a unit. I hate them lore wise. I find them completely uninteresting lore wise, just because of
Th-
the I don't know what I'm doing, don't know why I'm here, don't know who I'm listening to, don't know if I'm Alfarius, but I know I must betray.
They are at least magnificent
We also
bastards. I do remember the one or the one story where
Yeah, they're
they
great when
deliberately,
used as a story.
yeah,
They're not good
they
if you
deliver.
cover their stuff.
Well, no, there's two. One
we
word
however must put a disclaimer for all new role players that if you want to go in be in a Death Watch campaign and say I want to be the Alpha Legion traitor, don't do that. You're not experienced, child.
also, if you're part of the Death Watch, you're not a traitor.
They'd
You
probably
you may
spot you out way before then anyway.
you may have convinced yourself that you could convince yourself that you're a loyalist, and there are Alpha Legion people that do believe that the actions they're doing are actually to help the Imperium. But back on the stories, there was one where an Inquisitor was chasing an Alpha Legion guy, and it turns out the Alpha Legion guy was actually baiting him so that he could steal his face. Another one where the Alpha Legion had psycho-indoctrinated potential recruits for a Space Marine chapter, and then just Manchurian candidated all of them.
Like I
Just had
said,
an
they're
entire legion
best
for
used.
chapter turn traitor.
I think they're best used as in Fantasy Flight as an like a really fun Death Watch concept could be one of the early encounters you run into is a Black Shield who turns out to be an Alpha Legion because he killed the actual Black Shield that they took the armor from. You could do some fun stuff with them there. I just don't think that And they definitely would be fun to play where you go full James Bond as an Alpha Legion member.
Oh, then you got the idea. It's not even like a uh, guy from the Heresy. It is a recent Alpha Legionary
Which helps.
who
Yeah, if you do
who
that, it's really neat.
sincerely believes that you know he is not tainted by chaos. He's not. He's actually serving the Imperium. That's why he went renegade.
Or alternatively, you could have him play it like a Leonard from Memento, where they don't just remember what their orders are. They just are kind of like following Vox calls because of maybe they have like they survived an injury and they're basically used as like a tool by a higher up, like a sorcerer or something.
Yeah,
You could
possibly.
do something fun with that.
Though onto then the rules for the using these characters. So for the Sorcerer of Tzeentch,
That's some good art.
yep, that's actually the old art of the old Chaos Space Marine Sorcerer.
Love it.
Uh, so let's see, you get your Psi rating, you're a Psyker, you get the Rubric of Ahriman. So they gain unnatural willpower 2 and may roll an additional dice when forced to roll on the perils of the warp table, discarding whichever one he chooses to get a more favorable result.
By the way, a natural willpower is pretty disgusting. A natural anything is disgusting in this game.
This is a straight flat bonus.
Yeah, you get some
By
ridiculous rolls that way.
You are meant to go crazy, meant to go wild, but you're able to not get fucked by going wild.
It does not count, by the way, towards your psi rating, so just keep that in mind.
And you have various groups, ones that are the Wolfsbane, the ones that are actually trying to murder the Space Wolves.
Yep, there's the Sorcerer
Guys,
of the Cabal of Ahriman.
yep, followers of Armon, and this Disciplis Rubicae. These are the ones that are trying to actually fix the rubric. Good fucking luck.
Have fun.
Then the Alpha Legion Chaos Spaceman. I love the image for that. That to me is like what an Alpha Legion guy should look like.
Yeah, it ain't too shabby. I don't like it as much as the previous one, but I do think it works for what it needs to do.
So you get Deceitful Tactics. Once per session, he may substitute his Deceive skill during an opposed infamy test for the purpose of obtaining services and manipulating others.
You also get Insurrectionist, which once per session you can make a challenging scrutiny test. You can reveal a contact that can help you. Which is why, again, if you want to play them as Evil James Bond or as Jason Bourne, but Chaos, sure, you could totally do it. I think it works well for them.
Actually, I have a brilliant idea. It is a Pawn Stars warband. Because remember, they just know a guy. They know an expert in this field.
That's
I think
actually
it
great.
fits.
I'm just now envisioning them looking at a dinged up, fucked up Imperial cruiser, going, oh, that's a boat. That's a bust out another 1,000.
As
That's a very
someone's,
common slogan on there
it's
whenever
like
they dealt with boats.
someone's trying to sell it. So this is the enigmatic Eye of Huarleslim. It's a
Yeah, I'll give
powerful artifact.
I'll give
Best
you
I can do
20
is
credits for it.
20 credits.
What? But it's an actual, yeah, but that's not the real one. That's a duplicate that was made in a secondary ritual, and it doesn't have the full capacities. You can tell just because of, you see, the original actually had 9 eyes of all the same, of different colors. Yours actually has 3 of the same color, which means it's one of the duplicates, not as powerful. Sorry, man.
I'm gonna get sacrificed tonight because of this.
Should have gotten the
You never
real
know
deal.
what. You never know what is gonna come through that portal.
And then all of a sudden, one of the flamers of Tzeentch crawls out screaming, and then hands out an item to put in the pawn shop, and then leaves.
Hmm.
So who would be the Chumley in this setting?
Another Alpha Legion guy. They're all Alpha Legion.
No. One of the Alpha Legion actually has a Chumley personality. Like there's 2 heads. There's 2 heads crammed in the same helmet. One's Chumley.
I do. So they give examples of like just lone operatives, that sort of stuff. The rumors persist of Alpha Legion warriors who have been exiled from their legion. These are known as the Severed. We don't know what the reason is for. Then you have...
Why not?
That's the point.
No, actually, no, what I realized, it's because they decided to abandon the Long War and set up a pawn shop.
I think it may be hinting at the ones that think that they're actually serving the Imperium, maybe.
Yeah.
Is there any like? Is there like any where like a legionary just like says they just like pursue like another goal instead of like just throwing themselves at the Imperium? I don't know, like finding some like alien tech and shit.
I mean, yeah. I mean, most of them, though, because they are space marines, they kind of just pursue war, but there are some that can search for esoteric stuff and pursue their own power, set up their own kingdom.
It's more of a Thousand Suns thing, but sometimes you will run into any Chaos Space Marine that'll do that. So then there's Kusal, which is a planet located in the outer fringe of the Screaming Vortex. Here, powerful sorcerer or technocrats rule the planet from 3 cities using profane mixtures of magic and technology, and constantly vie with each other for power and influence. They're differentiated by their distinct cultures and unique specialties of their sorcerer scientists. Occasionally, such studies lead these intellectuals to leave their respective abodes and forsake everything they need in the pursuit of knowledge. And these are them, and I like them. They're a cool design.
Yeah. And it's interesting because they're from a planet that is completely dedicated to Tzeentch. This is a human culture that I think, unlike the other ones we've seen, because we've seen like what was it, like the chem dogs, we've seen
Yep, there's the
just
chem dogs, there's the
like
weird
berserkers,
the
and
berserkers.
just weird like witch doctors. This is one that is. It appears to be a completely fully functioning, fully operating human society.
Of an advanced culture, by the way. It's not just like some dude in the scrap wastes who are able to refurbish and use mining kit. No, these dudes are at least maybe not full Imperial tech, at least low Imperial or high space, which is nice.
Yeah, they're crafty, cunning. Use blackmail,
They,
bribery.
they just bum around with the blue scribes.
So let's see what they get. They are human. They get, depending on which city you're from. So if you're from Surgub, you get more of an understanding of warp, demonology, and psychers. Well, actually, they all have psychers, but Velkir, numerology,
Oh, that's cool.
navigation,
I actually like how
and
they give you
yeah,
the specialties too. That's really cool.
Tarnor. You know Tarnor sign language.
It also gives you
Um,
talents too. Each one has different talents.
ooh, I like that. Magnus, you get the Psyker, you get Magnus Supremus. Uh, roll on the psychic phenomenon table do not affect the Magister Immaterial, although those around it may still be effective.
Which is very useful.
Yeah. And yeah, so let's see. The Archivist of Tarnor. They believe in systemic cataloging and studying of what is known is the key to understanding what may be.
Basically,
They
you have to know
eagerly,
the past to know the future.
yep. They are also currently forbidden to speak due to the Archquaestor's decree, but many found creative and disturbing solutions to this minor impediment. Which
Oh,
means
those wacky Zinkians.
which means technically, if you play as one of them, you can't talk. Good luck playing online.
You have to use like a flesh hand puppet that you make. That's not yourself. Like you have to make like a genetically engineered homunculus to speak for you.
That's true. Yeah. The Shaper Artisan of
Yeah,
Surgub. So they craft the many wonders of Quasal. They delight in complexity control. The more profound
oh, or like
the
you could
result,
like summon like a little. You could summon like a little a demon helper, and you speak through the little demon minion. That'd
That's
be
one
pretty
way.
fun.
You could also use sign language. You could just, I don't know, possess corpses using like your like flesh tendrils to puppet them.
and what? Well, though, what if you're only forbidden from speaking from your primary mouth?
You just open up your shirt and your belly mouth talks for you.
Yep. And then let's see the Astral Seers of Valkyr. They study the movements of the cosmos and the insanity of the screaming vortex, and see it as a reflection of the forces of fate. They're
Uh,
they're
y-
fucking
you got
astrologers.
archivists, you got history focused, you got runesmiths, and then finally you have stargazers, which are pretty neat.
They have horoscopes. They're fucking zodiacs.
I love it. See what I
In a,
mean?
in a,
How I
yeah,
think
wait,
that.
wait, no. They are zodiacs in a part of reality that is saturated with the warp,
And by
meaning
the
they
way,
are
the
not getting
zodiacs
accurate.
change quite a bit because of that.
Yes. And let's see.
You can kind of see why I really do like chapters 2 and 3 in each of the tomes. Like, this really shows the strength of the Tome of Fate. This is where I think it's at its strongest. And here we
Let's see.
are. We're at the Idolatrix Magus of Forge Pollux.
Observational note. Subject 429 shows signs of systemic organ failure and severe tissue distension. Heart rate 198. Nerve responsiveness 94.327%. Mortality probability 93.74%. Recommendation: begin procedure.
So within Forge Pollux toil many magi of various specialties and skills for their master, Magos Anuris. They have waged a desperate and brutal war with the forces of the Exospectre and Force Castier of Untold Ages. While the Exospectre currently hold the upper hand, the war shows no sign of ending in the future. All who dwell in the Forge, from the lowliest servitor to the most learned heretic, spend their every waking moment fighting to tip the balance of the conflict back in their favor. So desperate is Anuris that he frequently incites his minions to resort to drastic fields of study and experimentations. So,
Wizardry.
yeah,
They're wizard tech priests.
they have basically
So is this
forsaken science to do magic.
so is this are heretics in vanilla
They are.
Black
They are.
So
Crusade?
this is a specific kind of heretic.
Yeah,
Um,
heretics exist. Basically, the big difference between a heretic, heretics can do a bunch of different methods. They could use alien gear. They could innovate. Like, they don't necessarily have
yeah.
to do the warp. These guys, though, specialize in it.
Yes. And they
They
do
are
have a psi
sorcerers.
rating. They have a psi rating of 1, so yes, they are tech priests, but they also have psychic. Um, let's see. Particularly the Adultrix Magos gains the Mechanicus Implants trait, as well as 1 good Craftsman Cybernetic and 1 best quality Cybernetic of his choice.
This is an interesting one. You basically slap on psyker traits to a tech priest.
Yeah. The
Talk
difference,
about
though,
multi-classing.
with this, unlike the Quasal and the Thousand Suns sorcerer, they don't have those penalties against, or those protections against the warp going haywire.
Nope, have fun.
Yep.
You do
Eh,
blasphemous studies. You treat it as a never-ending quest of progress. You begin play with a psyker trait, a psi rating of 1 and 1d5 corruption points. The Idolatrix Magos' maximum psi rating is limited to their corruption bonus. In addition, when determining their psychic strength, it counts as bound.
and the various forces, Engine Seer Diabolicus, which is basically put demon into robot.
Make demon into robot.
Well, no, no,
Stole
no.
my joke, you cunt.
You put no. You have the robot. You just put a demon in it. It's already insane. Now it's double insane. Transmaterium. These specialize in the ancient knowledge of the Mechanicus towards channeling the terrible energies of the Materium. Magic Gun.
And don't forget my favorite type of Mechanicus member, the Biologus, the Dread Biologus.
Put demon into flesh. Make flesh things.
Alter flesh to make
Oh,
alter
logic.
flesh for demon.
Did they ever address, like, in any media, just kind of like the weird little hypocrisy that can be found from like a mage's biologist? And the whole
There is
thing
no.
is flesh is weak.
Well, no. The flesh is weak, yes, but the flesh is a part of us.
Also,
You can't.
you are
You
man.
can't be. Yeah, you can't be.
You are of man. Man is of flesh. Flesh is weak, but also still machine-like in its way.
The flesh is not as efficient as the machine, but it can be made efficient. The ability also to not reject implants, the ability to better form your flesh to fit the machine god. It's perfectly in line.
especially because of the mechanistic view of life, where they see you as a machine, or you are the crude prototype of what the Omnisci intended. Basically, you are flesh, but you are a machine. My goal is to make the flesh machine more efficient. That is how biologists do.
And a dark mechanicum guy is like, you know what? The flesh could be used for a lot of different things. Instead of wiring, why don't we just use arteries? Or
Well,
nerves?
hey, you know how mutations are random? Why not like exploit the randomness to make the mutation more cool? I can make the flesh more cool by using mutant benefits. But there's negatives. Well, yeah, there's always negatives in research. After all, the plasma gun, our variant is still somewhat flawed in compared to the Xenos.
And that's
So what
heresy.
if you explode into Gribblies?
It is as the Omnisci planned. You must have supplicated the machine spirit differently.
So anyway, here you go. What is this? It kind of looks like a pulsating sac. It is a gun. Why is it screaming? That's its normal function when not in use.
Speaking
Just
of
grab
weapons,
Tyranids onto you. What's the worst that could happen?
You're joking, but that's the
that's
sort of shit these guys would do.
oh no, that's actually something the Dark Eldar did. They got a planet full of gene sealers and started grafting gene sealer parts onto them. They somehow those parts somehow now have a weird affinity with that moon that's still in orbit, almost like they have a connection to it.
Here we go, the
Mine's
tools
just
of fate.
screaming
I
at
think
you.
you'll like these.
Yep. So we've got the Quasal Crystal Caster. It is a tube that uses compressed air to propel a project over a very short distance.
Warp-based crystals that splinter within the flesh, causing immense pain through uncontrollable waves of cell-destructive energy. Oh, that's cool.
And to think it looks only like a 22.
I like it. They're also silent weapons, and fashioned like pistols, highly favored among assassins.
And then you have the Soul Cannon. Wide barrel, simple trigger, and several handholds.
The rest of it's
But
a
it has,
harness.
yep. It is fueled by a psychically warded container that houses the essence of the gun's previous victims. It's the fucking shock attack gun from the orcs.
I love it. Each time the weapon's fired, it lets out a tortured shriek as one of the stored souls is crushed and projected outwards in a bolt of warp lightning. Those not incinerated instantly are often set alight, and the soul cannon itself feeds upon the death and destruction it causes. The
Oh, look at that.
harness is
Brutal.
even capable of drawing power from its own user.
Oh, so you'll never run out of ammo.
It can never be reloaded. For every 10 points of damage it does, or for every target it kills, it gains another shot. In use against hordes, it gains one shot every time it reduces the horde's magnitude by 5. Or if destroyed. That's fucking cool.
And let's see, melee weapons. Bedlam Staff, which allows you to set fire to psychers.
It also has the illusory trait, which makes it even more difficult to actually deal with, since you're constantly making people hallucinate.
And then you have the Hollow Blades, the Pollux Heavy Khopesh, and the Castir Light Khopesh. The only way to, I believe, block these are the opposite blade. You have the Pandemonium Staff, which is another Daemon weapon. Warp Staff, another Daemon weapon.
Here we go. Special ammo. Tzeentchian Inferno bolts.
Yes. The ones that they use on their the Rubric Marines. They
Yep.
set fire to things.
They're inscribed with runes of power dedicated to the Changer of Ways. They glow with an inner light as the runes themselves writhe with barely contained might. When fired, they explode in brilliant displays of cobalt and vermilion fire.
Hmm.
The weapon does lose tearing quality, but gains warp weapon and blast too. They only work, though, if used by someone dedicated to Tzeentch.
Just give it to the corn guy, it just stops working.
Yeah.
They also use the warp collie against non-living targets.
And then there's the crystal caster shells, which are awful.
We got armor, we've got the magma suit. It's a giant
It's
mining
power
suit.
armor.
Yep. Force fields, prismatic amulet. So it has prismatic has a protection rating of 60, but if it ever overlords, the attacker responsible for causing the overlord automatically suffers 2d10 damage.
As the judgment of Tzeentch falls upon them, a prismatic amulet only functions when the owning character also possesses the mark of Tzeentch. And then there's the shimmering robes.
And it is near unique as a as an item. You're not getting that
Protection
without.
rating. Psi rating times 9
Ooh.
for the shimmering robes.
So that's basically fuck you, magic.
Shimmering robes, Psi rating 5 would give the shimmering robes a rating of 45. The overload rating on a set of them is equal to the wearer's Psi rating, e.g. a Psi rating of 7 means the overload is 1 to 7. If a set of shimmering robes ever overloads, the wearer must engage in a devout meditation for an hour to reinvigorate its power. If it's not done within a day, the robes fade to a dull gray and crumble to dust. They provide no protection to those without the Psyker trait, though they are very attractive. And you might get robbed just because of how they look.
And let's see, war gear. The
A
Casterians
Oh
in
shit,
Soul
that's cool.
Cage. They hold demonic entities.
They can use the cage as any part of a ritual with their intent is to summon a daemon. It includes summoning a daemon that will eventually have a daemon weapon or engine. It makes all tests involve summoning the daemon 2 levels easier.
Wait a minute, it's a fucking Pokeball.
Yeah.
The Crown of Prospero. So they have their abilities enhanced by Tzeentch. It is a psychic hood. Glimmerstone. Comes in bags of 10 pieces. They can throw a single stone. This creates a dust cloud, and anyone within the cloud gains a plus 20 bonus to resist psychic powers. Any character with the Psyker trait within the dust suffers minus 20 to all focus powers and silence tests.
The golden eye of Tzeentch. It's reported to be fossilized eyes of a powerful daemon, and said to be able to gaze beyond the mortal realms of life and death. As a free action, the user may make a challenging +0 willpower test, and for every degree of success, gain +10 to any evasion or opposed stealth tests until the start of their next turn.
And the Quasal Crystal Spire.
I love the Casal. I think they might be my favorite thing they've made out of all of the books.
So
They're just really unique. I like that.
Yeah,
It's pretty funny. We've gone from man, fuck this book to this is the greatest thing
Well, no,
ever.
I'm not saying fuck this book. I was just saying it's kind of boring, which is fair. It's just explaining it's explaining the god, and the god is very straightforward despite its complexity.
You got the Talisman of Tzeentch, the Tarnor Mimic Mask. Oh, this is so there are a bunch of masks that they use to ever so slightly give meaning to or give greater meaning. Which means someone's collecting them out there like fucking Bionicle fans.
I mean, wouldn't you?
Actually, imagine if they saw Bionicle. It's like, wait a minute, the masks can also give us power?
They also have the Vortex Pendant, which you have to have line of sight to their target to use it. It requires a full action with range and concentration subtypes and is activated by an opposed hard willpower test. For every degree of success, the target will lose the ability to use one psychic power they possess for the remainder of the encounter.
Yeah. And
it's
then we have our
tough,
minions.
but it allows you to shut down Psykers.
We've got Thrall Wizards, the Glimmer Wing Creature, and the Rubic Marine.
Look at that unnatural toughness score.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unnatural strength, slow and purposeful, all its dust. Finally, psychic powers.
This is where this book shines.
Yeah. So, unaligned powers, the Blade of Baleful Might. For each degree of success, treat this number like points to be spent on these qualities. So you basically can get a bunch of different qualities.
You get a certain number of points depending on your successes, and you can then spend those points to make your weapon crippling, felling, proven, shocking, or toxic. And you can actually add more of them. If you have 3 levels of success, you can add Warp Weapon,
And
which is pretty
let's see.
nice.
Just looking at some of these Echoes of Malice.
There's also Paths to Power. Some of the new powers presented in this book offer additional benefits when used in conjunctions with the Paths to Power. So if you have Corpus Conversion, your weapon and soul are forged into one, and you can postpone taking toughness damage from it until you stop maintaining the power.
That sounds like it's a horribly double-edged power right there.
It is. That's the
That's
point.
chaos.
The Butcher's Offering. Focus power test is used with this power as a free action, and you can either gain one of the following. You can choose one of the following: +10 bonus to the next test that you roll. Gain Unnatural Characteristic 2 for any one characteristic temporarily. Gain the effect of Jaded, Nerves of Steel, and Resistance at once. It lasts only until the end of the turn, which is still neat.
Yeah.
Oh, also, if you fail, you get Psychic Phenomenon. Have fun. By the way, it adds a +5 to the result.
There's Harrier Imps, which is you just summon warp flies, which means the target suffers -10 to all tests. They suffer from the imps, though, are stupid and cowardice. If the target spends a half action and succeeds in an ordinary intimidate test, they flee. So it also has no prerequisites, but that means that's a half action they're not using.
It's nice.
And remember, he suffers a -10 to all tests. So even though it's an ordinary test, it's actually at no bonus, or there's no bonus to it.
There's the Hex of Decrepitude.
Let's see. Yeah, there's the Umbral Halo. You summon a black halo around your head, and within the radius's powers, see.
Reduced lighting by 1 step. The user does not suffer any ill effects due to the reduced lighting. Everyone else does.
Yep, and everyone suffers a fear test.
Pretty useful. Lighting does have effects.
Then
using the Dark Halo allows you to roleplay as Horus.
Then you have Nurgle powers. Brain Fever.
Oh, well, that's awfully nice of Tzeentch to have an entire section for his arch nemesis, his powers in this book.
Well, they're giving a bunch of spells that psychers and sorcerers can pick up, which this is what again, I was kind of dunking.
No, they did. This is more stuff.
Yeah. Basically every faction except Khorne gets stuff.
Wow. I mean, we know why.
Yeah, it's kind of like, why would Khorne get any of these? I think Khorne gets rituals, but no spells.
Yeah. So...
But yeah, Brain Fever. Rapidly progressing fever takes the target of this power, rendering them unable to think and slow to respond, which is very useful. Psyker suffering brain fever, draw on even the most unholy powers of Dark God. This tool indirectly but it sufficiently turns the tide of battle. Challenging willpower test is a free action whenever attempting to perform a reaction to an action. If you succeed on the test, you act normally. If you fail, you lose the action entirely. You can just straight up make a corpse explode.
There is a spell called Vile Contagion in which you summon Nurgle's Rot.
Again, I was kind of dunking on the first chapter a little bit, mainly just because I knew that these 2 chapters would really make up for it.
The Ward of Worms. Worms leap from the sorcerer to his attacker, eating voraciously at the poor fool's exposed flesh.
You must consume the flesh. It's treated as a psychic storm, by the way.
Oh, and here's the thing. And if the guy dies, the worms take over his corpse.
Oh, also on top of that, the damage ain't too shabby. 1d10 plus psi rating rending damage. Penetration 5 with toxic and tearing, by the way.
That can kill Marines.
Oh yeah, it can. It fucking can.
I mean, yeah, it makes sense. You need a psi rating of 5 and an infamy of +40 to use it. The Slaanesh powers. Surdron's Twin. You create an illusionary double available at all sensory registers. In order to fool others, to which is real and which is the double, the psyker must control his own eagle and make a hard willpower test. For each degree of failure, the double has qualities that reflect the Psyker's ideal self, and thus the Psyker pales in comparison. So you make a double of yourself, and the double actually is better than you.
Yep. Also, funnily enough, if you botch it, which you can, for every degree of failure, you add an extra 10 to your phenomenon roll.
Let's see. Pangs of Misery leaves a seed of energy that nurtures until it matures into a sophisticated torture device within the subject's own pain centers.
Oh yeah, you basically just activate their nerve clusters. Should the Psyker win because you do a willpower test versus their toughness, should you win, the Psyker, the target suffers 2d10 temporary willpower damage, gain a level of fatigue, and is treated as if hit by a weapon with shocking. And after a number of turns equal to your psi rating, the pain dissipates. Not bad.
Yeah. Let's see. I like this one. Unnatural Obsession. The subject power loses all sense of reality and becomes obsessed and irrationally devoted to the Psyker.
It'd be cooler if you could just direct the focus of their obsession. Like you could just tell them, you are
Well,
now
no,
you are now
you
obsessed
make
with this block of Gruyere cheese.
you now can create your own simp.
Behold the simp ray.
And finally, the Tzeentch powers.
Here we go.
Aether Worm. The
So
master of plots dines off of the webs of mistrust and errors in faith. The Aether Worm, created many centuries ago on Quasal, played its role in the machinations of many a magister material. The psychically implanted parasite burrows deep into the mind of its host and infects them in a peculiar way. It starts as a boon at first, strengthening the mind against telepathic invasions. However, the worm serves as the master who implanted it, giving that one privileged access to the host's mind.
yeah, you can choose to hide the nature and target by making a challenging deceive test opposed by a challenging senescence test. If you succeed there, it implants an aether worm in the target psyche. The target may attempt a difficult willpower test to expel the worm once per day if they know it is there. While host to it, the target imposes a minus 20 penalty to all focus power tests. So basically, you can kind of cripple enemy psychers with this thing.
Here's your chocolate, sir. It's a worm.
Befuddling Curse. A multi-hued bolt of light leaps from the sorcerer and strikes the target with no effect. Shortly after receiving the strike, the victim begins to act strangely, muttering to themselves, screaming at imaginary enemies, or taking a chainsaw to their own leg. Treat the
Blessings of Magnus.
target of this power as though struck by a weapon with hallucinogenic quality, where X is equal to your psi rating. Fun.
Let's see. The Blessings of Magnus. Just get, obviously, bonuses to psychic tests. But you start from the heavily damaged condition.
That's still fair. That's still a nice kind of emergency thing you can do. Fate Loom.
Yeah.
Fate Loom provides the sorcerer with 3 benefits that take effect immediately and last for 1d5 plus psi rating rounds. A number of drawbacks which occur when these benefit ends. For the duration of this power, you gain a plus 20 on all toughness and willpower tests, and also a plus 20 on tests of one other characteristics of your choice.
Let's see.
You also immediately heal. You also immediately heal 1d5 wounds and any critical damage. By the way.
So remind me again. One of the boons is too. It's like if I remember correctly, like you can also if I remember correctly, how they portion out their magic schools, just like biomancy, pyromancy. Are you allowed to be like a pyromancer and take Tzeentch shit as well too?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
because
the point. These
pyromancy just burns someone.
This is stuff that you can add on because you're a sorcerer and delving into forbidden tomes and shit.
Like here, we've got the Storm of Change.
Yeah, that's a cool one.
Psychic Blast. All creatures within the radius take 2d10 plus 7 energy damage. Pen 9 has the felling psi rating quality. If the target inflicts zealous hatred, or the attack inflicts zealous hatred on any target, the target suffers a random gift of the gods. At the GM's discretion, minor NPCs or adversaries can simply be transformed into a mewling chaos spawn, effectively killing them.
Yep. You have to have a really high psi rating, though, to pull that off. There's
And
also the Labyrinthine Conundrum, or Deceiver's Mage, which is a thought cage.
ooh, and then there's these exalted powers. So you have the Aegis of Euphedros. These are powers you actually have to search for. Powerful focus test results in this power taking effect for a number of rounds.
Also,
The
these
sorcerer,
are ones that are for those undivided, I think.
I think there's others as well. But this one, it gives you demonic for the birds determining psychic strength. You gain incorporeal. Focus tests made by other creatures suffers -10 penalty when targeting the sorcerer. Psychic phenomenon that occur while this power is permanently attached to the power's area in one form or another. And they remain permanent to the space that they were used, not the character that used them. So if this goes off on your base, it's not good.
Yep. There's also Mantle of the Daemon Prince, where you undergo a series of mutations and transformations. You replace your forearms and hands as horns sprout from the brow. Such power is the beginnings of Sorcerer's true grasp of the station of a Daemon Prince. You can select up to the 3 of the following traits: the natural armor, regeneration, sturdy, stuff of nightmares, and unnatural tough. Basically, you get elements of a Daemon Prince.
Yep. And let's see. Biomancy powers, blood boil, cellular control.
Chitin
So,
Shell?
so no, you can cast testicular torsion.
Oh yeah, you could literally destroy someone by just destroying their balls.
You can just regrow wounds with regeneration.
You can also just make someone just give up on life. Last breath, you could just make them just give up.
Isn't that gun from was it Hitchhiker's Guide? The one that
You,
made all the Vorlons depressed?
yeah, you just literally turn their lungs off. Neural storms,
Yeah.
you give everyone seizures.
Let's see, there's fire powers, which is just different ways to cast Firebolt.
Hey, it's the thing you want, Viggs.
Molten Man. To have transcended the physical form, become an avatar of pure energy. I have become the Fireman.
You literally become fire. You are the fire. Oh no, that's the next one. One with the flame. Which allows you to really manipulate fire how you please. Hey there, Not Nito. Here's the rites and rituals.
Yep. So, new rites and rituals. The Rite of Sundering. As it affects a radius around psi reading in kilometers become infused with the energy of the warp.
Oh, that's not good.
Why?
For
It's
them.
and so the warp becomes 2 levels. Accessing the warp becomes 2 levels easier. Any and all forms of psychic resistance become half as effective.
There's
The
also the
rite
Rite
of
of Wild Fury.
um, the rite of binding, similar to how heretics might create a daemon weapon, but instead using the creation of daemon engines.
Yep, this is actually the book that first kind of hints on how to make a daemon engine. Then I believe it was Korn that set up daemon engines further, and then Slanesh. Like, they then built on this. This is the first book that did this.
Then there's the ritual of bonding, aka blood bond from vampire.
Yep. There's also the Ritual of Breaking.
Futures told. Yeah, a lot of stuff.
There's a
And
lot of
then
cool things.
up is
Oh, I actually like this close-up because it reminds me of the Master from the original Fallout game. He looks
actually
like the Master.
yeah.
Join, die,
Guy.
join.
I love it.
Have you realized that your super units can't reproduce? No.
Fuck.
kill myself.
I cannot coom, so I must die.
I can't
I'm
breathe.
gonna go head back to the forest and eat honey. Because the voice actor was actually the voice actor for Winnie the Pooh.
I'm just now envisioning the master just going, "Oh, bother."
That'll always be one of my favorite like little meme template things where it's like this voice actor would call children of the hospitals with cancer, basically.
I'm just now envisioning they ring it up. He rings it up and then just starts screaming, "Join, die!"
Well, that's what you think, that's the
Like,
joke.
imagine you get a kid and then you have like, oh, it's gonna be Winnie the no, he's doing the master because he's fucking drunk. Like he's completely smashed, and he's like, just to
You're
mess with
just
this.
screaming to the kid that the master race will take over and eliminate all humans.
How awful.
I don't
But
know. It might make that kid's day if they're fucking weird.
let's see.
The Architects of Destiny. This will be the setting stuff.
Your arrogance is only matched by your ignorance. Send ships, send men, send even the angels of death if you like. But know that you cannot tame the vortex, where there is no law but chaos, no emperor but Tzeentch, and no changing the fate that awaits us all. Final record of Archdeacon Aesop Herodotus, excommunicate traitoris. So some priest just went insane and was like, I'm going into the eye.
I think my favorite part of it is it's either him screaming, pure cope, if like it could be that where he's about to get bombed, or it's the last seconds before he turns into a gibbering monstrosity because he's entering non-reality.
So let's see. We're going to be exploring here the Quasal, Dread Korvaska, the Hollows, the Flaming Tomb, the Cat's Cradle, and the Pillars of Eternity. So they bring up here the ability to conduct an investigation.
And if you're wondering why they're doing all this, remember this is the first of the 4 books, so
Yeah.
they have to actually kind of explain everything about this.
So yeah, it's search modifier results. I think we can skip this.
I was going to skip all of this. This is why I can't rate Tome of Fate as high as the other ones, just because it does a lot of the setups that allow the other ones to run, while this one kind of has to walk. So, and then we get into the Screaming Vortex, which we've talked about. All of the planets,
Yeah.
like remember the cool water world where the ocean is blood, basically?
It's all in this part of the reality.
There's also the
maybe?
Dust Storm planet with the crap mining town that has the alleged jet palace of Nurgle or whatever.
Yeah.
Like all of them are here. There's also the twin planets.
So how do you get to the Screaming Vortex? You need to get first to the well, you could go through the 13th station of Passage, which I'm guessing is an Imperial thing.
No, it is not. Passage, I believe, is the planet. Is one of the. It's one of the planets I think in Nurgle's book.
Oh, it's one of.
It's the last area. It's the last area where reality kind of works. Like it is the last kind of sane area, and it's a dust off point for a lot of heretics.
So you can either go Exile, to the planet Exile, or to Harrowed Space. It says that the Exile is where you can find the golden ships of Quasal, but they rarely travel there, so good luck. But if you do, you might end up meeting Quasal.
I think that one of the coolest things about 40k, it's like, because you have the whole fucking galaxy to fuck around with, you can basically just make up shit as long as it's within, the mold.
One of my favorites that they kind of did was, for the Cornate one, they did a subversion where they brought the Norskins back and then their own retake on Chaos Dwarves.
What, the squats?
Yeah.
No, not the squats. As in
like,
they are.
They brought back the Dowie Czar kind of, but
like a
40K.
short. They're not squats. They're a short humanoid race that.
They're short, technologically advanced slaver race that are more like gnomes or goblins in a way. like like not Warhammer Fantasy Goblins, but like the impish fae that haunt the dark.
Do they produce the skull takers?
The what?
They produce some. They're basically Iron Age Northskin raiders.
So, as Leviticus Schrumpf says, Quasal always astounds me. Everyone in the prime of their life and with all the things a man could want. Makes me quite nervous. Schrumpf, by the way, is a soul trader.
So it's self-sufficient, largely peaceful, and highly industrious, which is something you don't think of when you think of chaos. Casal is in many ways what any world in the Imperium would strive to be. There is no discernible pollution, little in actual crime, and it's a trade balance that would be the envy of any sector capital world. The Imperium would, however, raise the planet to the ground, because all of its main manifest by the freedom of its inhabitants to use the benefits of the warp, particularly sorcery.
So we have,
It's
the
ruled
three
by the
cities of
three cities of Tarnor, Velclear, and Sugrub.
So the planet is pretty much stable. It has 3 moons, Malchus, Wenshai, and Atori, and just with the powerful sorceries created by the Quasalians themselves. As the moons change, so do the calculations of the Velk Astromancers, and terrible sacrifice the Master Fate needed to maintain the calming of the warp.
Essentially, they have used sorcery to steady the eddies of the vortex, which is why the planet's stable.
And these
using the
moons.
moons.
So Malchus is actually a collapsing gas giant. Wenshai is a death moon capable of sustaining and taking light with ease, littered with the bones of those who have attempted to conquer Quasal. Atori is a dead rock, but houses one mysterious structure that predates the earliest known civilizations, along with many sources of wars in case whatever once lived there rises again.
Yeah, they don't know if it'll come back. They don't want it to come back.
I'm going Necrons.
Again, there's a reason I really low-key like whenever they talk about the planets in the Screaming Vortex. Besides the ones where it's all Daemon War all the time, a lot of them are really good like this.
Oh, here's these moons. They're large enough to be planets, but the sorcerers have actually tethered them to their own planet.
Yes, they have, so they can stay stable. From space, the planet almost looks pristine, unlike most of the planets of the Vortex. While there are a few inhabited areas, the rest of it appears largely uninhabited and calm. Once inside the Atmo, though, it is possible to see farms along the coast and in the heartland, as well as massive forge complexes. Even the deserts near Tarnor, the complex irrigation systems and iridescent domes make it much more welcoming than they would be.
There are, however, small areas of blighted ground, just places where no life can thrive in them. No weather system affects them. Those who delve into the regions find no reasons for such anomalies, though the wisest of the ruling techno-sorcerers know better than to ever travel near them. Occasional storms that ravage the outlying areas of the surface seem to beat off these pockets like water over drops of wax. No trace, no change. They litter the surface like foul ink blots, obvious signs of the Quasal's true nature. There's also tension between the cities. Trade wars, espionage, some violence. They don't last very long, because they all agree that one faction can't be dominant. The Pact of Rasulier, a blood bond several centuries ago, with the souls of a third of the remaining population,
Remaining population, that should tell you something that happened.
Prohibits all-out conflict between the cities. This does not stop the arrogant and the insane. They just know to conduct their warfare between source machinations, duplicitous dealings.
Much of Casal belies the sorcerous nature of the planet. There's a massive void docking ring that surrounds the whole thing. Shipyards where the most sought-after vessels are crafted, and multiple forge complexes of the 3 cities from which various arcane creations emerge. Further examination reveals the secrets of this power in Casal. Baleful runes are burned into the metal, cooled by streaming blood. The cries of tortured souls bound in invisible chains as they're folded into the warp charms. Devices that flicker into heart shapes.
I'm actually surprised we have industry on the Chaos World because, I mean, I know it's different setting and all, but I remember in fantasy, the reason why you don't have, a lot of guns in the setting is because the idea of technology is seen as backwards to a lot of Chaos deities.
Not one, they just don't have the
particularly.
complex stuff to create them, and 2, the dwarves aren't giving them up.
Dwarves refuse to give them up, and also their main clients are the Norskins, the Hung, and the oh god, I'm trying to remember the other guys.
Kurgan.
Kurgan, thank you.
Yep.
Like the Kurgan are not very societally advanced. They're very nomadic. The Norskins
And
are
even
the
if they,
most developed because they're the furthest away from the basically brain blasting damage that the warp causes.
and even if they have guns, what is a
One out of four of
Norskin?
them legitimate. Well, like Khornates usually don't care for it because
It's weak. But the other thing is this: they don't have the ammunition for it. They don't have the resources to produce it. But within 40k, again, these guys were able to make planets tether around the orbit. They can get resources.
if you think that's brain blasting, Tome of Blood has another Forge world which basically emphasizes its gladiatorial fights, if I recall.
So
I vaguely remember
hmm,
that's one of the planets. I could be wrong, but I do remember there's like a Khornate Forge world, which is pretty cool.
so here's how the planet operates. Quasol is run by souls. You trade in souls. Living slaves to toil on their farms or their forges. Souls entombed in cunningly made traps. Trading for raw materials. Everything is run by souls. There are soul debts. So if you have your ship being repaired, you need a soul debt. So all those farms, all those idyllic farms, all that land, it's slavery. The
It's
chattel kind.
not only chattel slavery, but even in death, you will still be used as money.
The fucked up thing is too. This is only marginally worse than a Forge world.
Yes.
Actually, in some Forge worlds, it's slightly better because at least you'll know final oblivion as you scream into insanity in the metal.
Also, at least you're breathing an atmosphere that's not recycled oxygen.
Yep. Also, you get to touch grass because you're working on the farm.
Yeah. So Quasol is a singular planet of living beings that trade their wares for souls. They don't, when asked why they trade for souls, the standard answer is only silence. Many theorize that Quasol needs them to use as bait to capture demons for engines. This is true, but only a fraction are needed for such activities. The vast majority are fated for a much crueler end. Nations of souls are smelted down to oily elixirs only used to lubricate the tremendous daemon laths themselves. The remains of entire populations end as distillations, their souls refined through passage across hot coals of roasting daemon flesh into pure essences of endless pathetic pain, which burn with a pure blue flame hot enough to melt adamantium.
You,
Endless numbers of souls come to Quasol in payment each day, and while many do indeed drive the planet's arcane industries, many are desired simply on the whim of the planet's mad rulers for no other reason than it amuses them.
it's literally you are a fuel source for their forges. Trade offer your soul for touching grass. The sad thing is, I imagine there are entire Forge world populations that would be okay with this. I wouldn't be surprised if they could get an entire population of like one of the worst Forge worlds to agree to that.
See, the fruits of these labors softly cry with each bite, weeping streams of thin blood from their fleshy pulp. Such is the fate of those who followed the Changer of Ways and his followers on Quasol.
Oh, by the way, another fun thing about the souls are they're also used to make everything. Like that cool robe that you saw that guy wearing in the character. Yeah, that's made of souls.
Oh, we're playing Wraith now.
You literally can beat their souls into weaving. Like those cool rainbow robes? You just wove like several dozen slaves into shimmering clothing that shifts as the souls within are tormented just through contact with your skin.
Let's see. Of the
You are
Quasolians
still
themselves,
screaming.
yeah. Like their planet on the surface, they present an ideal society. They are uniformly handsome and healthy, eternally in their prime. Few outsiders dare inquire of those who do not conform to such ideals, however, and those who do are never seen again. Despite the rule of Tzeentch on the planet, Quasol hides its mutable nature away from the rest of the vortex. Those with obvious physical deformities are flesh sculpted into more appealing shapes. Fractions of their souls are used to appease the demon lats that carve their forms. Those gifted with mutations sacrifice their lives to the glory of Tzeentch in massive pyres in secret locations in each city, part of the pact of Rasulier that imposes unnatural order upon the wild chaos of the planet. Such offerings appear to mollify their god, for such insanities seem to appeal to his twisted nature. Few grow old, using their sorcerer's powers to maintain youthful appearance, both for themselves and their retainers, as a sign of their might. Those who do, but those who do are rendered to foul liquids that slake the thirst of labor's work in the Daemon forges. Quasol values its appearance above all else, and its people are carefully used for this as much of the rest of the planet.
This might be my favorite planet that they've ever written because it's just something you don't think of and it's almost perfect. I have made fun of how they introduced the God of Change just because compare it to the other three, it's not as good. But I think this is one of the best descriptions of a planet we've covered so far.
Because they appear normal, and in fact, they want to appear normal.
It's that uniqueness. They have all of these aspects that are unique. When you think of a chaos cultist, you usually think of a gibbering homeless man in the underhive with like a fucking pipe that is also kind of a shotgun. You think of that
And they're gonna
guy.
steal you for your. They're gonna stab you and steal your soup.
You'll think of the warty big man who screams blood for the blood god as he's gonna hit you in the face with a big hatchet. You think of clown porn for Slanesh. You
But
don't
these are
think
just
a
normal.
fully functioning society that on first glance doesn't sound that much different from the Imperium, even the horrible way they treat. But then you realize that the souls are still screaming. They're still screaming even as they're used as product. They're still screaming even as you go to bed wearing them.
I think a lot of that is too reflected on the type of media it is. I mean, 40k for the longest time, since the fucking 80s, has always been a war game first. So you're going to need scenarios in which you just have a bunch of screaming retards going head to head to one another. Was Fantasy Flight Games the first real RPG in the 40k universe?
No, I don't think so. Because Warhammer Fantasy
Technically,
experimented with that for the
well,
first
no.
couple of editions.
You could technically argue, well, for 40k, yes. You could
40k, yes.
you Inquisition, and then arguably the first edition of Warhammer 40k were somewhat RPGs. But yes, with Fantasy Flight, they really expanded upon let's investigate and detail cultures, much more so than simply as a military exercise.
And this is why I think even though I did open up with criticism, this is why I really love all of the tomes. The first chapter is, in my opinion, usually one of the weaker aspects of all four books. This one has the weakest of them, but the chapter which introduces new characters and gear and ways to do daemon engines, because that's another thing, Biggs. All of the other books actually explains how you use the daemons to make daemon engines and stuff you can add to them. But this chapter 3, is always the best in the books because it really gives you some brilliant ideas on how to do a chaos society.
So let's break down then the different main cities. So you have the island city of Surgrub. It's roughly 25 kilometers long, 8 kilometers wide. Though dimensions change with each measurement.
Which is another subtle strangeness.
Yeah. Most of the forges are not located in the city itself, as they are inherently dangerous to the population centers.
Of course they are.
So the most advanced production center. Bulk of the population lives closer to the surface, but few safe slaves actually touch ground.
You know, it'd
So
be
it's
a
not
really
touching
fun
ground.
short story to do for a Black Crusade game. You're just guards on one of the experimental smithies on the islands, and one of the daemons break free.
And you've just been told to be on guard as you hear the screams come closer and closer.
Now, as you hear the screams from below and a roar from throats not human.
Yeah.
That's always the scarier horror, isn't it? Where it's like, oh hey, look, it looks peaceful and normal, and look, there's even people fucking around, but it's out there following you. What it is, I don't know, but good luck.
So, Surgub traditionally holds a view of improving on what is currently known until it reaches the pinnacle.
By the way, it's literal because they are obsessed with heights. The more valuable or richer or ambitious you are, the larger your tower will be.
Yeah. The factors circle even claim that the only reason Rasoulier was able to bind the Arunatar was because of a visiting master channeler who rushed to the aid of his constructor savant.
Oh, this is cool.
What's the
So, no,
what is
here's
the
something.
Arunatar?
Let me just very quickly. There's something really fun. The bulk of the population lives much closer to the surface, but few slaves ever touch ground. They believe that direct connection with the earth grounds their own personal energies and is an affront to Tzeentch, making them less able to control the warp. They have an aversion to touching grass. The floor is lava. I'm sorry, I just wanted to point that out because that's really
Yeah.
cool.
Uh,
What were we gonna
let's
say?
see. I was
Oh,
saying
Rasoulier.
these factors. Yeah, so Rasoulier's bind the Arunatar. Don't know what that is, but we keep going on. The factors are the 14 factors are those who control the city. Rarely seen anywhere close to the ground. Factors watch the 3 moons passage and only meet when there are at least 2 moons in auspicious alignment. Um, Wield powerful magics. Many say that to stand in even the factor's presence is to invite madness and a longing for death. The general populace lives in fear of these beings, halting all activity should they make a decree or begin designating new ordinances for the city.
And then there are the forge masters, artisans, and sorcerers without peer. That's the next
So
level.
we've got Tarnor. Out in the northern deserts of Quasal, the iridescent city of Tarnor splades across the sands, like some bizarre gelatinous creature lifted from the depths of the ocean. Made of dome-shaped buildings, multicolored and ever-changing. Each of their cities is a basic shellport. Tarnor's flat and spacious landscape makes it the only viable alternative for main access point off-world. Individual sorcerers are able to hire compatriots from other cities to aid in their projects for a price. Novice sorcerers are found here, collecting the expertise and contacts they will need to prosper in their dangerous profession.
Oh, by the way, their aqueduct system is made out of glowing marble. It also is where they get their energy from.
Oh! And remember, due to the Archquaestor's decree, speech is forbidden for the next 180 years due to what was considered blasphemous utterances about the history of Quasal. Only a handful of people know what was said, and even smaller actually heard the word spoken out loud. No native of the city dares say a word, communicating only with complex sign language, while their calm face masks reveal nothing.
That's the other thing. They all wear masks.
To hide how ugly they are.
I wonder if that was the blasphemy. Let's see. No one speaks. The one sound that is routinely heard within the city limits is music. Haunting melodies and littling strings mixed with the beats of rhythm so complex that a mad mathematician must have concocted them. These tones blend together in daylight hours that enhance work productivity. At night, stranger, darker melodies creep into the music and the overall sound becomes far more dissonant. Visitors try to locate the sources, roam throughout the city, never finding anything more than the loss of sleep. Apparently, the night music serves as a secondary mode of communication for those who know about the transgression, perhaps seek to bring those words into greater circulation. The few who have believed this and worked to decipher have become utterly mad.
Which means they might be onto something.
Um, so apparently, Tzeentch favored the Tarnese sorcerers seek to preserve the perfection of the past. As Tarnor was the home of Rasoulier and the birthplace of the Arunatar, there's that thing again. Perhaps the greatest creation of Quasal. Um, so their view does have merit.
So they tend to be
So
the most conservative of the lot, and they tend to not change as much.
and then the next one is Valkyr. It has some of the harshest climates. It's in a perpetual state of cold on the southern edge of the Korstag Mountains. The city would normally have a more temperate climate, but its heights leave it fully exposed to weather from all directions. The mountain ranges blocks thunderstorms at lower levels, but they offer no protection in the heights, and storms hit with tremendous power and dazzling lightning, while the sorcerer arteries carefully study. Population has adapted to the weather, only coming down off the peaks when necessary to associate with and educate their less informed brethren.
The walls along the main roads of the city are covered in the faces of the past tyrants. Carved out of crystal-flecked basalt, the rigid countenances of the former rulers show the seriousness of Velk's passion for their craft. They
Oh,
also,
there they are. They're right. I think that's the image of them.
yeah, They also
Which
serve as a warning to any non-Kasaliag who enters the city. Through their cutthroat reputations already known, many off-worlders have come to Velkir to barter and haggle with the Astromancers and had a change of heart when the eyes of the city's past looked through them.
let's see, the highest peak of the southern range, Mount Al Qadak, flattens out into a great plateau where the bulk of the towers, observatories, and labs are located. They subsist on a unique fungi. It was strengthened with rendered fats and diets of the last visions of dying slaves. It's now a major food source for the city's elite rulers.
That's actually really cool how they go into shit like that.
Yeah. So
Brutal.
Velkir techno sorcery is pushed to its limits, from determining the correct portents to complete a new incantation, to binding demons of immense power into items for sale. The Mountain City spares no effort in finding the new, most fantastical ways to leverage their talents.
And they're getting really reckless with their sorcery.
Yeah. Lending credence to their self-proclaimed superiority, Valkyr is widely known for the quality of navigational materials from the Astral Seers, whose products guide almost all worthy vessels in the Screaming Vortex. Charts showing movements of stars yet to be born, sapphire mirrors that reveal warp vortices. So this is your way to travel without a navigator.
You legitimately come to Casal if you don't have a navigator because they're one of the few places that allows you. No, but only for the Screaming Vortex. They can read the Screaming Vortex. Outside of it, it's a lot less accurate.
Interesting. There is no reference to a Nuatar here, but see, they scry the signs, movements in the heavens and hells to improve the quality of their craft. Visiting sorcerers are never allowed in the main observatory, for fear of gleaning information or by some fluke discovering something the seers themselves did not.
Because they're all arrogant, which I like. I love how all of them have a sense of hubris about them too, since that's one of the flaws that Tzeentch kind of loves, because it allows him to force you to fall.
Yep. And they give us the sorcerer technocrats of Quasal. They give us daemon engines, the Aether Ray. So the Pact of Rasulier was enacted as a symbol of the United Planet. So it's a daemon engine personal ship bound with streamers of Tzeentch. Sharpened wings grow from the sides, quasi-organic strands extrude from the back. You're essentially flying a machined version of a streamer of Tzeentch.
By the way, they finally explain what the Arunatar is after Mirror Fiend.
Oh. So the
The
Mirror Fiend,
Arunatar,
though,
born of a catastrophic mishap within the forges of Tarnor during the last ruinous wars, the Arunatar literally stands above any war engine produced on Casal. Thus far, only one has ever been created as its designer and binder. Arcelier the Grand sacrificed himself and his life's work to bind the demonic monstrosity to his construct. When he realized the power of the daemon he entreated, he sacrificed the entire slave pool and all of his apprentices to control it. This created the single largest war creation to come from the planet. Since the loss of the original designer, however, it is unlikely there will ever be another, as any construction like it would break the pact which has maintained the peace. It is only slightly smaller in height than a Reaver Battle Titan. The Arunatar is a golden, four-legged creature of destruction, built entirely of ensorcelled materials and housing a daemon of immense power. Where the main body is entirely mechanical, the centaur-like upper torso is mostly daemon. The two arms sport relatively close-range weaponry for something of its huge size, but they are no less devastating to their targets. The right arm is mechanical, covered in spines that almost appear alive, but are made of hardened brass. It is tipped with a huge rune-etched blade capable of slicing vehicles in half. The left arm is akin to be that of a gargantuan flamer of Tzeentch, fleshy and mutable. It vomits forth great gouts of warp flame, and creatures and vehicles alike are either altered or destroyed under its fires. The Arunatar has no head. Instead, mounted firmly in the chest of the torso is a single red cyclopean eye and a platform jutting out mid-abdomen, ringed with spikes suggesting a fanged underbite. Atop the platform, bound by the final incantations of the Master Artificier, Arcelier's most accomplished apprentices still struggle to maintain control of it. None of them show signs of aging or fading in power, but there are many who wonder how long that will last and what will happen should any of them falter and the daemon gain control. In generations past, it has awoken to action, but none can fathom what drives it. It quelled a renegade slave rebellion in Tarnor, but also unleashed warp fire plagues that burned much of Vethlir. It destroyed an entire section of Surgov's outskirts, crashing towers into the sea, but then marched to eradicate an invasion for blood-crazed Khornate warriors. These excursions are thankfully short-lived, few relishing the sight of this creation marching towards its unknowable destination. Many of the more power-hungry and mad techno-sorcerers have tried to entreat the Daemon engine to work for them, but they are met with silence. For the last 200 years, it has been totally inactive, standing vigil over one of the blighted areas of the equator, as if expecting something to emerge from the zone. Entire cults have sprung up near it to worship the machine, their sacrifices perhaps to a god that does not bear witness to rites. This thing's fucking cool.
They bound something. They bound. I'd hesitate to even call it. They bound a greater demon. They bound something more powerful than that.
Lost
And
faith in
that
technology bullshit.
no, they bound a demon. It is a they bound something into a giant war machine, and that is what their sacrifices are for. And that is what they're hiding. They are hiding the fact that they have their own apocalypse that is ready to be unleashed.
It did require sacrificing 1/3 of the planet to halt it.
And it appears, at least according to what's happening in Tarnor, that people are starting to hear about it. People are starting to know about it, know about the truth, and it will come out eventually, I feel.
The Hollows. Torn asunder by war and united by hate, twin forges hammering out the horse of battle, crafting talons of death upon brass wings, lies, threats, contradiction, and half-truth are local tongue. If the Hollows does not rip itself apart first, it's a lovely place to visit.
So these are these are our forges. So we've got let's see, a little more than half a world spins in orbit. The upper atmosphere is intact, but the lower half is a stem. So that's the planet. Apparently, there was an Archmagos Elikos who established 3 massive forges on the planet of Hellwhisper. Then something happened. Something awoke. The two forges deployed weapons of devastation. The battle raged for untold weeks, but the two forges prevailed. Bellowing a cyclopean birth cry, the Forge Demon began an apocalyptic rampage. So something came out of this forge, and that planet is the result of that. So we have is it Forge Castir, Forge Polex?
Which we covered a little bit about since you can play them. But basically,
Apparently,
there
though,
was a third forge that kind of governed over it all. These are the only survivors after that, putting down the thing that Elikos summoned.
there is something, though. There is a Necron. The Exospectre has already plundered a Necron tomb. Which means, guess who's probably going to be invading that planet?
Damn you, elves!
And let's see. No.
Both
The
Magos Onuris
Exospectre.
and the Exospectre are constantly focused on war between them.
Yeah. The regions of Hollows. The Forge Flow is a massive magma tap at the core. Mechmore, Toxic Swamp. The Scraplands, continent-sized collections of wrecked and abandoned vehicles. Most common story revolves around a large group of madly cackling chaos dreadnoughts wandering the junk drifts, each one with mismatched patchwork limbs constructed from a dozen mechanical sources. Ooh.
Yeah, outside of the city, it's kind of a nightmare.
Forge Polex has created this creature called the Death Mask. It's a chaos spawn with a massive metal skull mask.
Oh, I've
which
heard of
extends-
these. This is, I think, where they came from. Basically, it was an attempt to kind of make a better chaos spawn.
Yeah.
Because the machinery helps, it doesn't guide the mutation, but it basically gives it a better intellect and able to focus.
Um,
Kind of like a
Hollow
bonehead.
It's basically a very fucked up servitor. It's kind of interesting.
Hollow-kind. Shambling humanoid shapes have formed of scrap metal, sparking electronics, and broken gears. An apostator. The exospectre does not tolerate failure. These are heretics who angered him, are taken by masked excruciamancers to be transformed into hideous conglomerates known as apostators. The
If you're
writhing
wondering who
mass
the Exospectre is, he is the leader of Forge Castier.
it's a writhing mass of mechondrites many times longer than a man's height. With their heads welded together and wired into one singular and quite insane consciousness.
Oh yeah, he just don't you like this punishment where you're fused into
Yeah.
like all your friends?
Together forever. And then we have next up is the Cat's Cradle. But not the Silver Spoon.
So within the deepest recesses of the gloaming worlds lies a region of space caressed by warp currents and the tendrils of the raw materium. Known as the Cat's Cradle, this area is the playground for daemons and powerful sorcerers, speckled with dozens of worlds, some that orbit stars normally, others drifting alone. A number of these worlds are merely illusion.
So you've got these you have the Cradle threads, a sort of a pattern of worlds, almost similar to the webway that a traveler may pass along them from world to world without needing a starship. It's a minor webway, essentially. However, there's a pattern we assert. Many of the worlds of the Cat's Cradle have been incomplete and partial maps showing the paths of cradle threads that connect them. Perhaps a very functional trap. The Cat's Cradle is a noose awaiting the necks of the ill-prepared.
Others think what it does is it's found in convenient locations for travel to be natural, suspecting that instead they were arranged deliberately to guide unwary travelers to the most dangerous and bizarre regions possible. Worlds in the Cat's Cradle appear and vanish often at random, and thus the term is used somewhat loosely in the region. There's no guarantee of permanence. Some planets, once visited within the Cat's Cradle, even vanish upon the first visitor stepping upon its surface. But there are
Uh-oh.
3 realms that have lasted longer than others.
Ravencloak or Ravelcloak. This was discovered by a powerful chaos sorcerer. Sorcerer claimed Ravelcloak as his own. He spent centuries crafting into a finely woven labyrinth. He's turned the planet into a fucking dungeon. Then you have the Farce, home of a greater demon Tzeentch, or Sartir. Him and a courtier of Shaper since whom Saul created a baroque and twisted world called the Farce. It is an ever-changing vista of stages, stadiums, and amphitheaters.
Each theater is connected to the others by gravity-defying corridors, staircases, and tunnels constructed at impossible angles. This planet is inhabited by seemingly endless rows of silent observers surrounding each stage. The audience is rarely known to move or speak, their purpose focused on the players and scenes acted out. Sartir takes great pleasures in putting on elaborate pantomimes that mimic foibles of human and Eldar civilization. These caricatures are acted out by captives from across the galaxy, representative of many different races and creeds. Enchanted chains are wrapped around the actors' bodies, forcing them to work their way from scene to scene, or face waves of searing agony or death consumed by eldritch fire.
He's a goddamn theater kid.
One of the most welcoming of the worlds of Cat's Cradle.
Yeah. Wait. Seems to enjoy these shows, cackling wildly with glee as Imperial Inquisitors and Chaos Space Marines alike grind out their lines through clenched jaws and stiffly move to their allotted positions upon the stage. He may actually have a troop of Harlequins. Which, oh, that's fun for them. Let's see, Recondium. A single landmass dominates this world, covered by a maze of imposing interconnected Gothic structures. Tiny portion of space within these structures is set aside as cramped living spaces. And within it is a carefully cataloged storage for books and knowledge library known to some as the One Archive.
To many visitors, Recundium in the One Archive appears a somber place of learning, an exemplary vision of order and stability among the cradle. However, this appearance is the thin veil over a multitude of ongoing savage conflicts between camps of scholars. Known as the canon occults, these bands of fervent scribes relentlessly scour the books of the One Archive, attempting to make sense of the universe. Such an impossible task is taken to absurd heights within the archive, for new and contradictory volumes appear at irregular and yet incessant intervals, driving the canon occultists into frenzied struggles over the correct interpretation of reality. Oh, I love it. They're literally
nerds.
no, they're not just normal nerds. They're literally Warhammer 40k nerds who are arguing over editions. This is what happens whenever an edition change kicks in. This is Fantasy Flight making fun of people who fucking hated edition changes.
They actually said recently.
They're-
They say recently the ranks have been swelled by arrival of a number of researchers from the library knowing upon Fenxworld in the Calixis sector. They have to be
Uh-oh.
then calling out the Dark Heresy with that.
They're literally calling out their. I love it. This is beautiful because.
Oh wait
Man,
a
I
minute!
don't
I
even
realized the
wanna
name
see
of it. Recondium. Retcon.
Yeah.
Oh God.
The-
Man, I don't want to see what those wars be. I don't want to see what the wars are like when they're talking about Primaris Marines. That shit probably gets ugly
Oh.
fast.
Oh, it went into a full war
What-
when that happened, I think.
Just someone's. Wait a minute. That's what a Space Marine looks like? No, that's not what a Space Marine looks like. It looks like this. Points to. It actually points to one of those female Space Marines. The war is not over.
God.
Older or newer. It's is it Primaris or are they all women?
I'm just now envisioning. There's at one point one crazy old, like really old, like like a million years old. He is kept alive artificially through chaos. Going, I knew half elves could exist, pointing to the Eldar alliance with Guilliman. I knew it. I told you. I told you that's why he turned a traitor originally. What are you talking about? Guilliman was never a traitor. Everyone screams at the old man.
The Emperor has children.
I
They're
know
called
what
Sensei.
I know what one of the Lost Legions was called. It was the Rainbow Warriors. Kill him.
And let's see, the next one, Dread
Oh
Korvaska.
no! Before you do, the themes of the Cat's Cradle. The unique nature is perfect for GMs to include glimpses into past or future events, and basically embrace the absurd. Sorry.
You can, as they said, you can even have contact with the Emperor himself.
Aw, come on. They have Dread Korvasaska. That's Carcosa.
Defying all laws of known physics, it huddled around a brown star. The surface of the planet is just above freezing.
And gets colder
There's
the
not-
farther one goes underground, which is interesting. That means there's not any internal fusion.
Yep.
Well, not infusion, but like basically, funnily enough, it takes forever for a planet's core to get that frozen. Also, here's something really cursed. Did you know it is hypothetically possible to have a habitable zone around a brown dwarf?
Hmm.
Because for a few million years, brown dwarves actually fuse enough deuterium, because they do glow a little bit. They don't have full-on stellar fusion, but they do do a little bit. So you could hypothetically at least kip on a planet like that for a few million years.
So the planet keeps shifting, but there are a few places that don't change. These oases. After several hours, a tiny creature enters it, an oasis will actually seek to expel the creature from its borders, with vague sense of being hunted. Then the native foreign farmers change and alter to be more aggressive. The oasis seems to be aware, and knowing that should any sentient life stay permanently, it would not be able to survive.
Later around the planet are ruins of multiple civilizations, half buried and largely destroyed. Shattered arches of dead and wraith-boned juxtapose themselves against cracked walls of veined black diamond. Amid these
The
ruins,
first
many say that the remnants of long-lost technologies lie in wait, as well as weapons of terrible power.
there was apparently it was originally called the Winnowing, but the original visitors quickly departed, soon degenerating into Herrick battle about a Defiant One and the Clutch. So there's some shit going on this planet. Possibly something trying to manifest within it, but there are mutants living on it. Highly sensitive to the warp, alter their able to control flame, alter their bodies, or coordinate large groups over distance. Since there's no food available to them as oases bar their entry, the tribes lie in wait for stragglers to leave the oases laden with fresh supplies, then attack in mass and kill them.
They also tend to scavenge whatever they get from their caravans.
The problem, so despite the fact that there's nothing on the planet that would sustain life, they persist. Through the winnowing, it appears the balance of power is maintained as the planet provides new tribes from the upheaval. So it's creating people. This is
They're-
not a Carcosa reference. This is something even worse.
Oh,
This is a planet that is constantly producing new mutant strange. How new has this stuff been? This is from like 2012. So no, this is over a decade old.
it's over a decade old, but it's just a loving nod to how edition changes cause arguments. It was just a cute little nod. I thought that was nice.
Let's see.
By the way, there's also
No,
a predator known as the Protean strain. These mutants are solitary, stealthy hunters that single out targets and observe them before killing, consuming, and then assuming the identity of their victim.
Mm.
In their natural form, they are roughly 2 meters tall with horrific deformed faces. Their skin is leathery and tough with thick fur and have clawed hands capable of ripping through basic armor with ease. Seemingly intelligent, when possible, they stalk, absorb, and select their prey carefully before making a move. Blessed by Tzeentch with a natural ability to alter their form, these creatures look for stragglers to prey upon, stalking them in the deep shadows of Corvacaska's ruins. Outside of the ruins and the adjoining subterranean tunnels, they have seemingly never attacked. The deeper explorers have gone, however, the more commonplace disappearance have become with tales of ferocious bloody combat. Many believe this is because they are extremely territorial and are hiding or guarding something. When a Protean kills a victim, it consumes its prey and is able to collect genetic memory from the creature. Within minutes, they change into a duplication of its victim, after which the creature uses the remaining clothing and gear, and to the unaided eye, there's no discernible difference. The creature's talents also extend to verbal and vocal ranges, making it able to adopt the exact sound of the victims to speak any languages it has heard before.
it's the thing.
It's beautiful. By the way, it's actually, yeah, you're right. It's not the thing from John Carpenter, which is a supercell. This is based on the Who Goes There thing. Which, if you're wondering how that's different, so John Carpenter's The Thing was made basically because there was a 1950s movie called The Thing from Another World, which was about a weird vegetable guy, body snatcher thing. And that's based on a book called Who Goes There. And the monsters in there were actually not supercell creatures. They were life forms that could duplicate others because they could manipulate their cell structures to look the same. And they were intelligent. They actually, I believe, I don't think they had, I don't remember if they had fur. I do know they had like 3 eyes and snake-like hair. Like really gross hair. But yeah, they're basically like the Who Goes There things, up to and including adopting the technology that they have. By the way, the best part is they then use their disguise to try to rip groups apart. They try to sow
And
discontent in the group in order to break them apart so they can eat more. Oh, and the best part is this is a psychic ability that can be disrupted by null fields and untouchables. So they are naturally using psychic potential to do that.
terrifying. Just fucking terrifying. Next up, though, is the Flaming Tomb. And like its namesake, it's on fire.
You think me mad, and I do not dispute it, but there is something within that burning orb, and its unleashing will sound the death knell of 1,000 worlds.
Scuzz Tzeentch agree that though there are 9 gates on the surface of the tomb, no matter where one lands on the planet, 3 are always to the west, 3 are always to the east, 3 are always to the north.
And they're also fractal in nature.
Yep. Most inhabitants have little recollection of how they arrived on the tomb, very little memory of their lives before their current benighted existence. Those with even partial memories rant and rave to the heavens, claiming to be powerful men and women who cannot even remember their own names. They can hear, within the babble of any given tribe, one can hear the accents of Mammon, Hindrance, Quasal, Hollows, Furia, and 100 other worlds of the Screaming Vortex, and countless more besides. So something is bringing these people, erasing their memories, and leaving them here on this toxic, vile planet.
The best part is, the one common memory of all denizens of this tomb is one of betrayal. None can fully articulate their fear, and often archivists work for years to decipher the babbling of the worst subjects, but all of them appear to believe that they are being punished for some lapse of faith, lack of vision, or journey down a false path to power. Just before breaking down into incoherent sobs, every subject seems to declare that they had been on the very edge of greatness previous to being cast into the terror of the flaming tomb. By the way, no one who has gotten there has ever recovered their sanity.
Among these are, though, a small number rise to positions of authority and are known as pyromancers. So they use them as private armies, legions of slaves. Some are powerful enough to drive off the Burning Men, or even the attentions of a wandering demon of Tzeentch. What is a Burning Man, you ask? Creatures of solid lava that rise up out of magma seas. They're magma people.
None have ever been able to ascertain where these creatures come from or why they stalk the flaming tomb, but they are the eternal bane of the refugees who attempt to scrape a living from the blackened soil.
And they are demonic, but
Yep. They never attempt to
that's just
communicate
the
when they
rules.
appear.
They might be aliens.
They silently pull themselves from lava flows and relentlessly pursue the desperate humans across the wastelands, driving them like cattle with no purpose or motive. Those whispers in the darkness give credence to the wildest tales murmurs that the Burning Men are the physical manifestations of the will of the being trapped within the planet. And the forced migrations and massive killings are nothing short of the turning of another tumbler in the lock, bringing the planet one step closer to its mysterious unknown fate. By the way, here's a very beautiful bit of art for the Magma Men.
This is going to sound highly schizophrenic as fuck, but do you remember our most near and dear game, Meat World? This is basically a Meat World, but good.
Yeah, it's Meat World,
All
but
fucked
good.
up.
And look, the people that are attacking are Imperials, so you get to burn fascists.
It's great.
Oh my god!
Why can't I play a Magma Man? That sounds really fun.
Because they're demonic.
I want to
They are
play a
demonic,
Magma
though.
Man.
I mean, you could just become a pyromancer and just drape yourself in flames.
Magma Man, go brrr.
So then next
Is that the name of one of is that the name of one of the Mega Man bosses?
It is actually. Mega Man 9, Magma Man.
So next they bring up the various rules for
Dr.
the
Light
Daemons of
eventually
Tzeentch.
used him to heat his hot tub.
No wonder these fucking robots rebelled.
They bring up a Daemon of Tzeentch called, or Daemon Prince of Tzeentch called Photocoulazortis. But I think we can finish this up with talking about the Necrons.
Yep, because they go into the Flamers of Tzeentch, Disc of Tzeentch, which is really cool. Love that art.
So the
Cordis, and here we go.
Necrons live on a place at the furthest edge of the Screaming Vortex, the frozen world known as the Pillars of Eternity, named so for a video game series.
Almost certainly.
So named for the impossibly tall, ordered columns of ice that dot the surface. Some assume these cyclopean structures, clearly beyond the limits of any natural process to form, must be a result of the warp. But no. On occasion, these pillars go off a sickly green light. The people of the pillars know that this is a bad omen and huddle around their fires with weapons ready. For when the pillars of eternity awake, the dead walk. So there are small tribes on this planet.
And they have been marked by exposure to the warp, but the incident of mutation is actually a lot lower.
And they often fight each other, though they might make temporary alliances. A lot of plotting between them, but all tribes worship chaos, particularly the changer of ways. Some worship Char, Zashin, Zenshish, Chosen in his Axebat as the volcano. That is until his avatar erupted and destroyed the village. Fire is fire seen as a gift from the gods by all the tribes, so the Juraluk neighbors, the Luwup, saw this as a great blessing and converted almost immediately.
That has to be the greatest laugh ever. You worship your god as a volcano, it kills you, and your rivals actually are like, yeah, your god is right, corpse. That's hilarious.
There are, though, the Black Catacomb. Or, let's see, do the time-dilating effects maybe drawing out the Necrons stirring? Because the Necrons have already awoken. They're
Oh,
yeah. So the Screaming Vortex disrupts the flow of time and may even cause errors with the Necron's strange technology. The Necrons may be resistant to the corruption of the warp, but they are not beyond its damaging effects.
Yes, even Necron can get destroyed by warp energy. It's just, it takes a lot more of it. Thankfully, you're in the warp.
There apparently are within the Black Catacombs the Nakrir, a troglodytic people who only dwell in the uppermost reaches of an ancient crumbling tunnels. They were once a tribe like the others, forced to betray their gods or face extermination at the hands of the planet's original inhabitants. Others believe that when this tribe first witnessed the awesome miracles of the metallic ones, they forsook their gods and cast out their psychers. The Nakrir worship the Necrons as gods, offering sacrifices and prayers for guidance. It is said these traitors construct costumes of scavenged metal so that their spiritual leaders might take on the guise of their steel gods during ceremonies. It is unclear how the Necrons view them.
I don't know where you're reading that one.
Page 109.
Yeah, because it then just goes into a bunch of a whole fuckload of Necron stuff, which is great.
Yeah, what we want to go then to, though, probably are.
Oh, I see. Yeah, the Nakrir. You're right.
Yeah. I do like to see this. The reanimation protocol rules. At the end of every turn, the GM rolls a challenging toughness test for any incapacitated Necron. The test benefits any rules that grant bonus to regeneration. If it's passed, the Necron rises to its feet with a number of wounds remaining equal to its roll in the regeneration trait. If it fails, it will roll again on the following turn unless it fails by 3 or more degrees, and then it teleports away. But if it is destroyed by something that is particularly brutal, like a melt-a-gun, it may not self-repair.
I'll melt a gun to the head will take care of all your problems.
I
Yeah,
want to go to
melt-a-guns are fun.
page 117, because this is where we get the characters.
Tehek the Watcher.
Yep. So he had the only prediction of his attacks have come from the choir on the Mount of Quasal, where the choir should be the only seers, but is unknown. But perhaps there is a connection between the Necrons and that sorcerer's world. The goal of the raids likewise eludes all. It said that Atek has shown a willingness to cooperate on occasion with the Disciples of Chaos, which is interesting.
Yeah, it's something you don't usually see.
He has no interest in conquering territory, so he is searching for something. And he's testing the defense of the worlds and perhaps preparation for a full-scale invasion. But this guy, he might be a lord then, I guess.
The best
Um,
part is those who know about Necrons don't even think he's in this region at all.
ooh. Then you have Runkek Ka, the holder of the keys, which is a
So he's a
cryptech.
cryptech, yep. They're the caste
Yep.
responsible for maintaining Necron's secret technologies. And while all are masters of science and technology, each cryptech specializes in a particular realm of techno-sorcery. Ronek Ka, like many of his order, is fascinated by the prospect of the reversal of biotransference and a return to the flesh.
How he, though, was
Ones.
interested in the connection between souls and the warp, which means that his tomb world is in the perfect place. So he is trying to understand the flow of the materium, currents of the stream vortex, connection between the physical body and the transcendent soul. He is aware of this and is willing, with the fact that, well, he's a soulless machine and he doesn't have any psychers. So he has bargained with denizens of the vortex for tomes of forbidden knowledge. He also wants to take as many psychers when he raids with his liege, Atek the Watcher. Whether or not Atek shares the cryptech's thoughts on the warp and apotheosis is unclear, as even the lesser knowns that make up Atek's court. It is possible the continued existence of life on the Pillars of Eternity is due only to Atek Ka's wishes, so that he may have test subjects.
That's interesting.
And that explains why there are still humans alive on that world.
And also,
Which,
if you have Aetek the Watcher, the entire thing is the Necrons might actually be just wanting to return to the flesh.
and here's the terrifying
If I
thing.
remember correctly, aren't those just flayed ones?
No.
No. So the Necrons, make a long story short, they somehow got turned into metal bodies and they no longer have souls.
Essentially, in their deals by making the katana into these giant war engines to fight against the old ones out of bitterness, the Catan turned it around and essentially stripped their souls, ate most of them, and duplicated their intellect into soulless servitor machines or whatever, and used them as foot soldiers.
Yeah.
What happened is they eventually rebelled against the Catan and then went back to sleep because what the fuck, mate? I just lost my flesh.
And they would like their flesh back, because there are times where they are machines and they realize, wait a minute, I haven't breathed yet. I can't breathe. Oh, I can't breathe. I'm choking. And then they realize that, they're a machine.
Now, the flayers are what happens because one of the Catan they destroyed was Lanogor, the flayer. And upon his death, he cursed those that did it with a type of malicious insanity and a craving to be once more in the flesh.
It's essentially a virus in a way, like,
It's a virus and death curse.
because they just wear flesh. They don't want to be flesh. They just wear flesh as a skin. And then there are the destroyers, which have completely become machines and only want to kill things down to the microbe. That if you put them on a planet, that is what they will do. They will kill any living thing on it.
It is not uncommon for a Necron faction or a Necron lord to actually wish to return to the flesh, or to at least
In fact,
make sure that their
yeah.
soldiers regain their consciousness.
Because listen, they have an understanding of reality. Now they
It's a little
if they
skewed, but they understand it.
if they return to the flesh, they probably can find a way to live as immortals. The problem is how do you get back to a flesh body, and essentially how do you have a soul when you no longer have one?
Which actually leads to, here's a very cursed idea, because Atek has been around for a while. What if Atek was responsible for what happened on Casal with the big fucker? Like that was the culmination of an attempt to try to return to the flesh. Or what if that happened on that one Forge world? Because remember, heretics sometimes see the Omnissiah as one of the machines. Would it not be too difficult to trick them into thinking you are an agent of said Omnissiah?
Mm. The other
That
interesting thing
Forge demon might have been an attempt to return to the flesh.
or it's a giant construct that is a giant
Like,
Necron construct.
well, like
Because remember,
it was an attempt to
hey,
revive the flesh, or maybe he did want
Yeah.
to make something like that. Yeah.
that's the other thing though. You're reviving the flesh in a place where the flesh is highly mutable and is corrupted by chaos. So if they even got into normal bodies, who's to say they just don't completely fall to chaos?
They probably would, damn near instantly, even with their anti-measures, because they've never really dealt with it to that degree.
Who's to say they're not fallen right now?
That too. They could be like Men of Iron, because they're resistant, they're not immune.
And with that dark, confusing, and horrifying note, I think we can call it a rest.
Well, we're gonna just crawl back into the Pillars of Eternity and let the gibbering savages just root through our garbage.
Yes. And this be the conclusion of the Tzeentch book, the Tome of Fate.
I do personally think that the book has a weak beginning, but a very good ending. And that's only weak because the other 3 books, I think, handled it a lot better. That's not like a negative against the book. I was a bit scornful of it initially, but that's just because I was comparing it to, because remember, it did one of the best glow-ups of Nurgle I've ever seen. Like, Tome of Decay did an excellent job explaining him. So, by comparison, this one wasn't as good.
But overall, I think it's a satisfying, I guess, conclusion, unless we do want to eventually do the main book.
I don't know if because we covered a lot, and I think it
Yeah.
really does, like, what this book does is an excellent, like, all of the 4 books does a lot with it, you know?
Yeah. I think at the end of this, though, I would say, and this is the thing with Black Crusade, it is, you get to play as the villains, as the bad guys. You get to dabble into that insanity that is the warp and chaos. And
Insert
definitely,
annoying man that. Go
and
ahead.
definitely, Fantasy Flight showed off that insanity with these books.
I'm to a point where, because I played Only War a lot. I think I've dabbled in Death Watch, but I enjoyed the system so much. I really don't, other than availability, of course. I really don't see the point of going for something like Wrath and Glory, which I have not heard jack and shit about Wrath and Glory.
The other ones, Wrath and Glory, it's much more action heavy, not investigation, not, you know,
So meant
detailed.
for Zoomers.
Yeah.
I've not really heard
Look,
anything positive, but I've also not heard anything negative, which I think is a very damning
it
indication
is the
about the
same
book.
thing as it follows the same rules as the Age of Sigmar RPG. So it's a very quick action paced game. Maledictum Imperium is essentially an update to Dark Heresy and all that, but you are still playing as. Actually, no, I think you can play as all different types of groups. But the thing that I think has made Fantasy Flight games last long is the detail. I mean, this is just Black Crusade, but there is the Calixtus sector, the Jericho Reach. Um, what's the sector in Only War?
Shit.
Dominus.
Thank you, Domitus.
The Severine Dominate. And the other thing that I do like with this, you effectively could play. You could play all of those games in the same system as a story, as in you were guardsmen, you ended up maybe an Inquisitor's warband, you struck gold with the um, with the and ended up becoming a rogue trader. You then hooked up
Wait,
with a renegade, or at least a forgotten group of Death Watch, and eventually all succumb to chaos.
Yeah, you genuinely could start from Only War and go all the way to Black Crusade, just through all the steps. You start as a bunch of troopers. Most of you die but survive long enough to get into the Inquisitorial gang for Dark Heresy. The only survivors of that being a couple of random Space Marines. Then you join Death Watch. You break your vows, go to a rogue trader, and then accidentally go crazy from, I don't know, running into a Tzeentch puzzle and it drove you insane. You could easily do that. Like you could do a weird long-running campaign. Um, what I really like about the Fantasy Flight games is, yeah, it is heavily investigative. It's almost like an attempt to update Call. It's actually a really good attempt to update Call of Cthulhu to be a little more flexible because I think it does combat quite well. Where you are brittle, but you also can be quite powerful. Um, I really like this. I do like this book. I don't like it as much as the other three. And a lot of that is just because this is the book that had to set up what the other three did, you know? Like it had to explain what the Screaming Vortex was. It kind of got bogged down on explaining factions. And it's just Tzeentch's. It's funny for the guy who is the font of change, deceit, and many plans. He's kind of a one-note character, even more than Khorne. If you think about it, Tzeentch is actually more in one note than the guy whose whole thing is blood.
Well, I think it's because you can. It is straightforward in a sense. This is the trickster, magic guy, mutation guy.
Yeah, but like they don't really emphasize as much. If this was kind of like what they did with Tome of Decay, they would have also, and they kind of try but don't succeed like they did with Nurgle, where they show the faces of Tzeentch, the 999 faces, where one emphasizes progress, one emphasizes just the desire to know, one desires ambition, one desires revenge via betrayal, that sort of thing. One desires the ability to become a better liar.
And I mean, well, there is that. Like you have
They
Kairos Fate
cover it,
Weaver.
but they don't.
You have
They
you
kind of
have
botch that.
the scribes of Tzeentch. You have the changeling. A lot of
They
the detail,
do,
honestly, is
but they
within the
kind
mortal
of botch
followers.
it. Yeah, they just kind of botch it in chapter 1, though. Not like badly. Like it's a functional. It's a perfectly acceptable. This is a. This is if I this is to rate it. This is a decent opener. But compared to say Tome of Decay, which is an excellent opener, it just pales by comparison. What this book does is it has an excellent chapter 2 and 3. Chapter 2 is always good because it gives you interesting new characters to play, and this book has one of my favorite things they've ever created, which are the soul mages of Casal. The techno mages of Casal are really cool. They have unique weaponry, which is very interesting. Their philosophy changes based on city state. Their skills change based on city state.
Yeah,
And just, it is a civilized servant of chaos, which compared to the other three books, you don't see as much as. That kind of
and
elevates
and,
it.
and there is a reason why. Because of the amount of sacrifices and the fact that you are hanging on a thread because one errant sorcerer could get the idea of making a giant doom weapon and firing it.
And the only reason you're still around is he sacrificed a third of the planet to it. And even then, his apprentices have to kind of keep control over it in a locked stasis war. Even then, they don't fully win. Like every now and again, it'll just kind of rampage around a bit. It is one of my favorite planets they cooked up. There's a few in Nurgle that I remember pretty good. I like the one with the desert town of Passage. That one's pretty solid. They also
I
had
like the
the Lice Mountain, the Lice Castles, where all of the
yeah
buildings are on lice or giant
uh,
monsters.
I like the was it I don't think there was many with the Slanesh one
There's a good
but
Slaanesh one, which is the twin sister, because there was
oh
the
yeah, the
Nurgle
Twin Cities.
planet, and then the twin city in Slaanesh, which I thought was really good.
Yeah. um
Khorne had
I
the
think
ocean planet, which I
yeah,
liked,
I think that just the mystery of what the fuck those creatures are.
and it's just straight up water world. Physics doesn't work correctly. It's really cool. Also, that's the one that has the chaos worshipping orcs in Kroot.
Oh, they aren't chaos. I don't think they're chaos
The
worshippers.
Kroot are chaos corrupted though,
They're corrupt. I'd say they're corrupted. They're just two alien races that are just fighting
which is
each other.
something you almost never see, and it's really cool. That's what
Yeah,
chapter 1 is a bit
especially
of a wet
with
fart,
chaos.
but the changer when he but with the changeling when he tricked the orcs, that's great. Like you don't see that often.
Oh no,
It's always
well
how
it doesn't.
chaos fucks over humans.
Well, it doesn't beat the favorite story in which the changeling put a bunch of Nurglings on Korn's throne, and Korn got a little demonic whoopee cushion as he sat on it. It's my
That's pretty
favorite
good.
story.
That's great. They should have had that one in there too. That would have been nice.
I mean, all those stories though are new. Those aren't in like the codexes or the codices.
Oh, I will say one other positive to this book. I like every planet that they've actually brought up. That's actually unique because remember how I've always said there's like one or two planets in the other three books that I think are kind of boring because it's like Daemon War, where it's like, oh, the realms of chaos are fighting over this. They don't have any of that, and that's really neat. I think my favorite one is just they have a planet that's just the retcon planet filled with Warhammer 40k nerds throwing a fit over how the universe changes each edition.
And then the Star Trek nerds show up.
No, that they're in the
Actually,
farce.
no. The Doctor Who nerds show up trying to make any sense out of their plot.
And then they get captured to play theater in the farce with that demon who's like, now come on, say the line. Ugh. The Eldar homeworld has fallen, billions must die, everyone applauds.
Yay!
I would say this book is a solid good. Actually, yeah, it's a solid good. I love the stuff they added mechanically. I love the shard weapons. The addition of magic. This is one of the books that actually really adds to your magic slots. Like it gives you psyker powers. It gives you sorcery. It's just really nice.
You too can own this book for the low price of $110 off eBay.
Or you can just get the PDF on RPG Drive. That's where I usually offer it. I actually list in the description. I think I listed in the description where you can get a copy of the PDF. I think it's like $19 or something, which is a little high, but it's out of print.
And there's usually a humble bundle once or twice.
You can usually snag it via Humble Bundle, and that shit's really great. But yeah, all in all, I'm kind of glad that we finally finished the Tome of Fate. So what is our fate now?
D&D
I mean,
1?
Oh boy,
we're
buddy.
covering first edition. That sounds interesting. We could cover advanced D&D.
Oh, you naive little child.
I love the fart noises that whatever book you're unleashing is giving. Is it possessed by Nurgle?
I meant shitting on the new edition.
He was being facetious, and
no, I'm hearing it. Nurgling is legitimately, I think, using D&D 2024 as a toilet because I hear it in the background.
I will say though, I think I am somewhat interested in just checking out Wrath and Glory just to see what the fuck it's like.
Well, we could.
Or something else.
Oh yeah, that is one good point Squirrel Killer made. It'd be like one more book that would have been really cool for Black Crusade.
Undivided?
What?
Exactly. An undivided book.
You know what? That's an idea. Put in the comments or on our Discord what you think an undivided book would have.
That's an excellent idea. What things would an undivided book have to include? Because I will say that one of the things you probably have to include are additions to daemon engines, because every other book actually, talks about using them. What new mechanics would they add? Would you think they would add? Come up with ideas for what type of classes you can come up with. Shit, come up with planets or whatever. That sounds cool.
I was about to say maybe we could have Malal, but dude has to say fuck no and then beat up the FFG employee.
I mean, the Book of Malice would probably be only like 40 pages thick, but it'd be cute.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be cute to have a little booklet for it.
And Jimmy's right. Technically, it would be the core book, but I meant like something specific, like you could then focus on like more like pirates instead of like people that are just searching for glory and the power of the gods. It's more like I'm a raider or I'm a rebel and I just want to fuck shit up.
I think the problem is they used the Night Lords early, because that's what I would use if I made that book.
Renegades,
Oh yeah,
What about
like
the
a
Iron
book of
Warriors?
Renegades would be pretty good.
Red Corsairs.
They did
I
use
seem to
Iron
recall-
Warriors. I think they were used in Khorne.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Black Legion is in the first one.
But yeah,
But yeah,
I don't know what we're gonna cover next week. It is a
we will,
mystery.
we will leave you with the mystery.
You know what we should
Find
really,
it in the fate of Tzeentch.
if you guys want to do like actually good shit, like what I should really do is I should show my I backed a couple of Kickstarters way back when, and I'm just now starting to get the physical books.
Oh,
Maybe give that a shot. Actually, maybe something from my vintage, I suppose.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily be opposed if you're willing to show them off.
Yeah, no, I think shit. I think we'd have to get an alternate because I think my full legal name's on the PDF copies they gave me to make sure you don't spread that shit.
Oh, to Bigigus Maximus, to to our big fan, smiley
Just-
face.
Thank you.
But we will leave you on with that.
Have an